Hey guys, how are you? I hope all is well your way. First and foremost, my sincerest apologies for being late. I forgot that I scheduled this for 11:35 or 11:40. I think I scheduled it for 11:40. Yeah, I think I scheduled it for 11:40. But in my mind, I was thinking I scheduled it for 11:45. So I'm literally sitting at my computer waiting for 11:45 to hit. And then when I logged into StreamYard and I looked at it and it said it's showtime. I'm like, oh, okay. So my sincerest apologies for being late. Thankfully, I'm just 2 minutes late, but that's still not good. I don't like being late. I hope all is well your way. I hope you guys been having an amazing day. Hello, Sister Fantasy. Hello, everybody. How are you? I love seeing you guys. I love coming out to speak with you. And so I'm going to go ahead and get right on into it. So there are a few things I want to say before I get into the lesson. And one of the things is I've mentioned this before. God speaks to me in patterns. So I see, and this is why I tell people I study patterns, but not intentionally. Instinctively, I pick up people's patterns. So if you have a pattern of behavior, I'm going to pick it up from up close or from afar. I'm going to pick up the pattern. And that's if I have a relationship with you, or even if I don't, I have a tendency to pick up patterns of people. And I think maybe that's a deliverance trait. I don't know. But I pick up the patterns of society as a whole. And one of the things I can say is that as a leader, when you deal with a lot of people, it's easy to pick up cultural patterns or patterns of behavior that have not only become normalized, but that are toxic. What have you start picking up patterns because you start seeing the same old trend. After you've seen it many times, you're able to diagnose one of the issues that is in our society or what have you. And so one of the things that I've seen over the last couple of weeks, I've seen it for a long time. Let me say that. But for the last couple of weeks, I've experienced quite a few vindictive people. And what I mean by that, I'm talking about just seeing, not just towards me, but I'm seeing people be vindictive toward other people or what have you. And it made me say, okay, this is what God wants to talk about, right? God wants me to come out and he wants me to talk about vindictiveness because in the Bible, God says that vengeance belongs to him. Sister Theodosia, God bless you. I love you, sis. But God said vengeance belongs to him. Nevertheless, we are dealing with a nation of offended and easily offended people. And a second thing I want to say as a disclaimer, do me a favor, be sure to like and share. If you're on Facebook, I need you guys to make sure that you like and share because there's low engagement. When there's low engagement, it's not going to show up on Facebook that good. So do me a favor. Don't just listen in. I want you to hit that like button, hit that love button, and hit the share button so that I can see you're in here. I'm on StreamYard and it allows me to see the engagement or what have you. So one of the disclaimers that I want to give before I get into this, because I know how the enemy works, and this is a pattern I saw a long time ago. One of the ways that the enemy works is that if you feel like I'm offended with you, brother Andre, I love you, I appreciate you, thank you. If you feel like I'm offended with you, if you're offended with me, if you've done something that you know that was relatively vindictive, you're probably going to think I'm talking about you or at you. I'm not. I've experienced it quite a bit this week. And I think it's a part of being a leader. You know, whenever you're a leader, you experience, and it's not even just on that front. I've experienced on the personal realm. So I'm going to tell you guys about a really evil thing I saw this morning. Sister Lakita, God bless you. And that's what made me say, you know what? It is time for me to come out. Let me go block somebody on Facebook. But that's what made me say it is time for me to come out and sorry guys. That's what made me say it is time for me to come out and deal with this issue. Okay. That's what made me say it's time for me to come out and deal with this issue. So that's neither here nor there. It's something that the Lord has been laying on my heart. And I want to make sure that you guys know how to navigate offense. I want to make sure that you know how to navigate offense. Because if nobody's ever taught you, as a matter of fact, I literally forgot to do this. And I'm going to make a commitment to you guys to come back out tomorrow, or even in comments, not even tomorrow. I may just put it in the comment section of the video. And I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound offensive. And I want y'all to hear me and don't take offense to it. And I know everybody is not. I know it's just a few people. I literally want to create a class. Like I've been with Esther Prep, I'm going to be creating pockets of classes because I don't necessarily think I need to walk with everybody for 12 months. I want to be able to walk with people for 12 months, but I don't necessarily think that I'm going to be walking with everybody for 12 months, which is why I'm offering nowadays a monthly membership as well. So you can register whenever I'm hosting a class. So hear me when I say this, and I want you to hear me. I realize that it's not always that everybody's evil. I think that, in all our honesty, can I say this? I think that a lot of people have really genuinely never been taught how to act. Sister Mona, God bless you. Thank you, sis. And I'm being honest when I say that. I'm not being, I genuinely think that a lot of people have never had somebody to sit down and tell them, okay, this is how you respond. So this is what you do, or what have you. I genuinely think there are so many people that have never experienced that, right? And so I think, like I said, I don't think everybody's bad. I'm one of those people that think that a lot of times the issue is we're just dealing with a lot of people that they've had vindictive parents. They've had vindictive this and vindictive that. And they've never had somebody to sit down and say, okay, whenever you're experiencing this emotion, this is what you should do. Whenever you're experiencing that, that's what you should do. And that is one of the burdens that I have, is to make sure that I teach people that I'm, because that's my grace, is to teach. So I want to make sure that I'm teaching people. And forgive me, you're probably going to hear me on here because, like I said, I was coming to Facebook to block somebody. When people get on my stuff and start, okay, when they get on my stuff and start hitting mad faces and stuff, I'll be like, let me get over here. Okay, so because I don't want the live to be interrupted by vindictiveness. All right, so, and mind you, I don't know who that is. I just saw it on here. So anyhow, with that being said, I want to give the definition of vindictive. But again, before I give this, like I said, if you happen to feel like, because I'm an influencer, meaning I've had communication with a lot of people, right? And I work with a lot of people. I work with a lot of people. And so it's easy for you, if you have any type of access to me, it's easy for you to go into this mindset, because that's how the devil works. That she's talking about you or what have you. I'm not. I'm talking about patterns. So this is not directed at anybody. And I want to make sure I'm clear on that, because one of the most annoying things to me is that a lot of people have no guard as it relates to their heart. The Bible says, guard your heart, for it out of it pours the issues of life. But they have no guard. They're not guarding their hearts. And so consequently, they deal with a lot of demonic thoughts, and they believe those demonic thoughts. So let's talk about the definition of vindictive. The definition of vindictive, and it is having or showing a strong or unreasoning desire for revenge. Having or showing a strong or unreasoning desire for revenge. And that comes from Oxford Languages. Some of the synonyms for vindictive include vengeful or revengeful, spiteful or unforgiving. Vengeful or revengeful, spiteful or unforgiving. Like I said, I'm going to do a class. I want to do a series of classes, right? I want to do classes where I teach people like how to sit at a table, the proper utensils to eat with. I want to do classes where I teach people how to be offended, how to navigate the realm of offense, how to communicate. Because a lot of times when you're dealing with vindictive people, they are really afraid to use their voice. They're afraid to use their voice. So they internalize a lot. And when you internalize a lot of things, one of the things you have to understand about the human soul is the way that is wired is that whenever you have questions and you don't know how to pursue the answers to those questions, you start assuming, right? You start coming up with your own answers, and it's you stitching things together. And it's not based on another person's behavior. It's typically based on your trauma and your history. For example, your history with men, your history with women, your history with leaders, your history with relationships. Is stitched together based on your history. And so, like I said, one of the things that I want to do is I want to take time out to teach you how to navigate, because one of my burdens is to help create, or set, not even create, but to help people to reach their destiny, their assignment, to walk out of trauma, to walk out of anger, unforgiveness, rejection, all those demonic things. My assignment is to get you out of there so that you can flourish in this event that we call life. Because a lot of times I get a chance to see what holds people back. Because again, when you're a leader, you deal with massive numbers of people. And when you're dealing with massive numbers of people, a lot of times, everybody's their own individual, and every individual feels like you need to see me. That's the thing. If you got 500 people that you're ministering to, All 500 of those people feel like, I don't want to be in the crowd. You need to see me. You need to hear me, or what have you. And that's not always feasible. And so you have to, it's a thing that you have to do. So I don't want to get into that part because that's not what I'm here to talk about. But I want to give you some examples of vindictiveness that I experienced. And I only want to give you two of the examples. I'm not going to go into the depths of all the other stuff. Like I said, for the last 2 weeks, this has been a pattern of behavior I've seen with people. I've seen a lot of vindictiveness, not just thrown at me, but thrown at people that I love, people that I know. I've seen people being vindictive or what have you. And again, that's how God ministers to me. He ministers to me by allowing me to see a bunch of patterns or what have you. Now, this first case may not be a case of vindictiveness, to be honest with you. Sister LaQuanda, God bless you. Thank you, sis. It may not be a case of vindictiveness. It could be a simple case of me misunderstanding. And so this is a light case. This is a light case. And this happened today. I was in line. I went to Panera Bread about 5 something. It was almost 6 o'clock. Now I'm supposed to try to be at my church by 7. And I've been doing like these fasts, and the fast ends at 6. And so what happened was, my line guy, funny story. I don't want to go into the entirety of that story, but I hired a new line company because the line company that I have communicated with them plenty of times. My back fence is wood. It's a gated fence or what have you. It's a gate, excuse me. But yeah, it's a gate. No, fence, wood fence. Okay, but it's a wood fence. And I've asked them multiple times to let me know when they're coming out. That way I can make sure that I'm up so I can open the back fence so they can mow the backyard. Backyard is tiny, it's small, wouldn't take them 5 minutes or what have you. They never do. They never communicate with me. I typically go to bed around 6 o'clock. And so what ends up happening is, when they come out to cut my grass, they come out usually in the morning. But it's after I've gone to bed. So when they come out to cut my grass, they never cut my backyard. So I have to call them and say, hey, my backyard wasn't cut or what have you. And there have been many, many cases where the grass, it's just spotty back there. The backyard is not all that attractive or what have you. So I just don't worry about it in some cases. Other cases I call them, and I realize that I have to make a habit of calling them back and saying, come out here, regardless of what the grass looks like, come out here and cut this grass. If I'm paying you for it, get out here and cut this grass or what have you. Not get out here because I'm really nice with them. But long story short, I got frustrated because they haven't been out here in like 3 weeks and my grass is looking a hot mess. I text the guy that owns the company and asked him, hey, have you guys come out to cut the grass? Because I remember one time I was looking low and I want to make sure I paid him. And he didn't respond. So I was driving the other day and I happened to come across a new line. Well, I saw this guy out mowing. I saw, they were out mowing this yard or wherever. I could tell it was a company. So I pulled up and pulled over, and there was a lady standing near the truck. And I said, hey, excuse me, do you guys have a business card? And she gave me her business card. And I said, okay. So as I'm driving, I text my other lawn company. I just paid them. I was like, I don't know if they came and cut my grass or not. I'm just gonna pay them, and I'll send a note in the PayPal, like, please cancel my account, which is what I did. Anyhow, this is not a story I wanted to tell, but I'm just gonna go ahead and finalize this story. But I said, please cancel my account. And I talked to the new company, or what would be the new company, and I have other work that needs to be done out there as well. So I talked to the new lawn company, and the company, I talked to the guy. He said, okay, I'll be out there same day. So he came out, and I was like, he gave me a quote for the grass. It's $25 more than what I pay. Okay, like, dang, $25 more than what I pay. And then the brush that I need cut around my yard, the way around the fence and stuff like that, is backyard overgrowth, all of that, not in the backyard part, but right behind it, is horrible. So he gave me a quote of $600, which is what I had kind of estimated anyhow in my head, or what have you. So we made an appointment for him to come out today and cut the grass, and then on the weekend to do this stuff here. Long story short, and this is not the story I meant to tell, but I'll get into the story. But when he came this morning, he was supposed to come at 10:30. So I set my alarm for 9:55 because I wasn't sure if he was coming at 10 or 10:30. So I set my alarm. I got up, I walked around, did everything I needed to do. Then I got dressed, and I went to bed at 6, mind you. I got dressed, and after I got dressed, I called him, and he doesn't speak Spanish. He doesn't speak English. He speaks Spanish, so he has to give the phone to his daughter. So after me and him had this language barrier, he gave the phone to his daughter or what have you, and I was like, "Hey, I just wanted to see if you guys are still coming." And she said, "Yeah." I said, 10:30, right? She said, "Yeah, we'll be there at 10:30." I said, "Okay." And this is a little girl, probably about 9 or 10 years old, and she said, "Yeah, we'll be there at 10:30." I said, "Okay." Y'all, I kid you not. I was up in there, and I've been working on a client's book. I was editing the book, and while I was in there editing the client's book, all of a sudden, I look, it's 10:35. I hear a lawn, I hear riding more. I hear, but I can tell it's not in my yard, but it's near, but it's really near. And I know that the neighbors to my right already cut their grass. They cut their own. So that meant it was to my neighbors on my left, and they have the same company that I had just called myself trying to fire. So I went and I looked out my window and I saw them over there cutting her grass. So I came downstairs, and no, I didn't. I looked and I was like, okay, they're in her yard. I hope they got the memo that I fired them because they got somebody else on their way out. Long story short, next thing you know, because typically, it would be somebody mowing her grass and somebody be in my yard. Next thing you know, I hear a lawnmower, I hear a ride more in my yard. I look out the window and it's the company that I just fired, and they're just in my yard mowing. And the other guy's supposed to be on his way. So I ended up calling him. I called and I'm just like, well, early bird gets the worm. I hate the way that this worked out, but this company is $25 cheaper. That's mowing my grass. One, and two, I am up to open the back fence. And three, they told me 10:30, and it was like by this time it's like 10:43. So I called to make sure because I couldn't see the face. And the daughter gets the phone. I said, "Hey, is that you guys out there in my yard cutting?" And she was like, "No, that's not us." I said, "Okay, I'm sorry. My old lawn company showed up. So I tell you what, don't worry about today. And you guys just come on out this weekend and we can do the other stuff." She said, "Okay." The father still pulled out. He still pulled up. So I'm only saying that to say I ended up, because I got up so early I had to take a nap. I set my alarm for 4 something. And about 4:30, then I got up and I had to start rushing to get dressed, or rush to take a shower, get dressed, do makeup, the whole nine. And then I wanted to go grab me something to eat so that I have time to eat before I go to church. So this is where we get into the vindictive story that probably ain't a vindictive story, but it is what it is. But I ended up going to Panera. Now, when I looked, I saw that the line was short from the highway. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna pull up. And I pulled into the parking lot. And as I was pulling in, it was other cars pulling in front of me. I said, crap, look like this line's about to be wrapped up based on the line. And so there was this lady in front of me. And I didn't see who was in the car at first. She was driving so slow, I could have ran past her car. Now, mind you, in my mind, I'm in a hurry. I'm trying to get this food so I can get to home, make sure I have time to eat so I can get to church on time. And she's moving snail. So I'm talking about turning in like I'm annoyed, but I'm not too annoyed. I'm not annoyed to the point, but I did make a in my car. And I hate I did that because as she was turning, she was going so slow. And she was looking at her rearview mirror at me, and I was like, "Oh God, I hope she don't think I'm bugging out in this car because I just threw my hands in the air." Like, long story short, she made my stay, and I'm not going to go into the rest of that, but she made my stay in that drive-through hell. When I tell you this lady took her precious time, and in Georgia, there are a lot of vindictive people. Like if you show any signs of feeling rushed or acting rushed, like you're frustrated with people, a lot of people here, and Florida as well, a lot of people here will slow down and they will start trying to aggravate you or what have you. This lady had an opportunity to pull up on the speaker. She didn't. She just sat there. When I tell you, and even when she got to the cashier, this lady sat there. She pulled out fire where she had to open her door. And not only that, she was then when they handed her food, she handed them the cookie back. I saw, and I was like, "Oh God, here we go. We want these people." And she got her car comfortable. She was in the park. She had her mind made up. She was gonna be there for a minute. Long story short, what ended up happening was they gave her the cookie back. Then she reached out the window for something else. They gave her drink. Then she reached out the window, and she still, like I said, she in park. She got her mind made up. We gonna do this. And they told her to go park. They said, "Ma'am, go up there and please go park," or what have you. And I thought she was pulling off until I saw her park. I said, God, you are so good. But I can't say that this was a case of vindictiveness, but it felt like that. There are some cases where it may feel like vindictiveness, and it's not necessarily vindictiveness, but that is something that's relatively common. And this was an older woman. And this is one of the things I want to say before I get into this next example is this: get that stuff out of you while you're young, because if you don't get it out while you're young, it becomes so engraved in your personality that you will become a very nasty older person. And let me tell you what happens to nasty older people is that one, family doesn't want to deal with you because they don't want to deal with your nastiness. Whenever you get to the point, or if you ever get to the point where you have to have somebody to take care of you, family don't want to deal with you, so they're going to put you in a nursing home because they don't want to deal with your vindictiveness, because it's so engraved in you that you become argumentative, controlling, manipulative, or what have you. They'll put you in a nursing home. Now, when they put you in a nursing home, you'll be in a nursing home with a bunch of people that don't care for you, don't love you, right? It's just a job for them. And I want you to remember that. So you can end up in your latter years being mistreated. My mom used to work in a nursing home, and my mom was one of the most loving people. And she was one of those people that she hated to see people being mistreated, regardless of how mean they were. That's one of the things I did love about my mom, that grace on her life, where she, she just wanted to see people, especially older people. She had a real heart for older people. But she would talk about that a lot of times. A lot of the people that were in the nursing homes were very nasty people. Not everybody. Sometimes it's that sweet old lady that says she don't want to be burden her family, right? Sometimes it's people that don't really necessarily have that much family. But then there are people up there in a nursing home that their family said, hey, you can take their social security check. You can take everything that's attributed to them, because I can't live with this human being because she's nasty. And I've seen people like that have 5, 6, 7 kids, and none of their kids will take them in. None of their kids will take them in because of how vindictive they are. So I'm saying that to say this message is going to be on time. If you happen to be one of those people, and I'm going to give you signs of it. If you happen to be one of those people that even if you have a small degree of it, is going to grow if you don't get rid of it. It's a cancer, and you want to get rid of that thing. You want to get rid of it. So another example of it, and I almost don't want to mention this one, and that's the only one I'm going to mention. Something that happened. So I got a text message, and I'm trying to be very mindful of what I share. But I'm going to say this. Next thing you know, this morning, I get a friend request from my mother. My mother has been dead since 2018. Obviously, it's not my mom, right? We know it's not my mom. But this, I already knew who it was when I got the friend request. When I got it, I'm like, I'm getting ready to go to bed. As a matter of fact, I was just laying in my bed. And I'm just laying in my bed, and I see a friend request with my mom's picture and her name. Now, the person who did it, I don't know this person personally. This person is trying to force a connection, and really, it's an attempt. I don't know the person personally. It's an attempt to force a connection. So a lot of times people feel entitled to having a connection, especially when they're related to you. So that's one of the things. So I already know who it was because it's a coincidence. Well, I got my suspicion. You can never really say for sure, but I got my suspicion. And let me tell you how this works. I was getting ready to post up about it, and the Lord was like, no, leave it alone. How this works is you end up reaching out and saying, hey, this person did that, and then the next thing you know, the person reaches out, I didn't do that. See, I would never do anything like that. Da, 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 da. But anyhow, I've been wanting to talk to you and all that. So people sometimes open doors with that. Now, I'm not saying that this is the truth. That could be a theory of mine, right? It's not necessarily true, but people do that kind of stuff. And I decided not to pursue it because, in all honesty, it didn't aggravate me. It didn't bother me at all. I just thought there are some really evil people out here. There are some really evil people. It didn't move me, thankfully. God is giving me that type of heart, that kind of stuff. So I just looked. Like, I see a friend request from my mom and her picture up there. And I went to the page and I'm looking, and they got pictures of my mom up there. And I'm just, right, it's an evil, 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 evil person. And so I just reported the page, went on about my business. But this is an example of vindictiveness. And I want you to hear me when I say this. And I got this in my notes, so I'm probably going to rush through that part when I get there. Some of you are in relationships with people who were vindictive towards you. There are vindictive people sometimes form relationships by doing offensive things. I need you to hear me when I say that. I saw that in high school. I saw that in elementary. I studied that pattern back then. My dad told me a long time ago, he said, you have a tendency to study people before you talk. That's a part of my wiring. I studied that back then. I noticed kids that would come in school and they wanted to be a part of a group and they couldn't get in and they would go in offending. They would go in offending. They would go in and they'll start trying to bully the person, lying on the person, doing all types of mean things to the person. And then they'll force a connection with that person. That's a forced demonic soul tie. So I need you to hear me when I say this. One of the things that you want to make sure that you do is don't you ever form a connection with somebody who's going out of their way to hurt you. Don't you ever form a connection. I don't care, because what they do is they wear you out emotionally, because a lot of times you may have to be in an environment with them. You have to work with them. You have to school with them. You have to be in an environment with them repeatedly. So they'll keep hurting you and keep offending you to the point where you get worn out. And so now you want peace at all costs because they've made that place. I'm telling you the strategy of the devil. They've made that place so unpleasant to you to the point where either your option is quit the job or bring an olive branch to the person. And then the next thing you know, you become besties with the person, but your best friendship, you'll notice the person is in control. Every time I've seen that, the person who was vindictive, the other person be walking behind them. Am I the only one that's seen that? Because there's a lot of you that are wired to see patterns, right? You may not realize it, but you're wired to see patterns. You will always see the other person walking behind and they don't even realize, even though the person is being friendly toward them, they're being bullied. Who wants to know the name of that demon? It's a spirit. Who wants to know the name of that demon? You already know it. It's Jezebel. Jezebel is a spirit behind witchcraft and control. And understand that when we start talking about witchcraft, witchcraft is not always an altar. The Bible says it's one of the fruits of the flesh. It's one of the fruits of the flesh. So it starts here. And this is before I get in my notes. It starts here. Vindictiveness typically starts with good intentions. It sets the stage. This is a pattern I've noticed. It sets the stage for its good intention, evil heart. Good intention, evil. Y'all have heard me talking about this. What it does is you're in school. Some girl comes to school, sees you with your friends, admires you. She doesn't realize she's wrestling with jealousy, or she just feels entitled. She feels like I should be rolling with them. Maybe you're popular, or I should be rolling with them. I should be rolling with them. She tries to form a connection with you. It doesn't work. Maybe you looking for your pencil one day, you can't find it, or you looking for your pen. She says, "Hey, you need a pen?" You said, "Thank you." In the back of her mind, that's enough. You should be my friend by now. No, you're cool with your own friends or what have you. You're not trying to form any immediate connections. Everything. You're one of those people that let things form organically, right? Over the course of time. But no, she's not one of those people, because toxic people have to form. They have to form fast connections. Everything has to be fast for them. Once they make it up in their mind that they want to be connected to you, they fantasize, and the fantasies they have are good. I want you to hear me when I say this, because some of you may be wrestling with this. The fantasies are good, but they don't know that there's an evil pattern of theirs that they have, that every person they form a connection with is going to end evil. I call that hand grenade syndrome. What the enemy does is he will over inundate a person's mind with good thoughts, good intentions, because he knows what's in them. This is why we have a lot of church hurt today. A lot of church hurt is not people being hurt by the church. A lot of church hurt. I'm not diminishing anybody's church hurt, but I am saying what I've seen is the pattern I've seen of behavior is a lot of church hurt. It comes from people desiring to form connections with other people and not being able to get those connections and getting offended because they feel rejected. Tell me if I'm lying. It's them feeling, and it's never them wanting to form a connection with the congregation. Never. It's always them wanting to form a connection with the ministry team because they want a connection with the pastor. And they can't get to the pastor that fast. And rather than going through ministry school, doing the training, volunteering, rather than doing that, they figure, let me connect with the ministry team. Let me connect, especially those who walk with the pastor, those who are closest to the pastor. Let me form a connection with them so that they can put in a good word with me for, they can talk about, oh, you should get to know her. She's amazing. She did this. She cooked this mean stew. She took me here. She took me there. And that crap don't work. And when it doesn't work, because the ministry team is used to seeing people do that, and they're cool, but they put that boundary, you end up feeling rejected. And you're not being rejected. They're just putting up a boundary. They're just saying, hey, I don't mind saying hello. And, if you need prayer, come to the altar. But I'm not interested in giving you my personal phone number. I'm not interested in going to lunch with you. I'm not interested in that because I don't know you. And people, they think that when it comes to the church, one of the things I've learned is that when it comes to the church, people feel entitled to the leaders. People feel like if you are a Christian leader, you better prove it. And that's a demonstration of your love, is that if I got good intentions and you supposed to give me your phone number, period, point blank. You supposed to do this for me. You supposed to do that for me. And when they don't get it, a lot of times they're vindictive. And here's the crazy thing. This is what I've had talks with some leaders I know. Like one of my pastor friends, we talked about this one time. And I told him, what God showed me, I said, grenade send them. Either way it go, they're gonna blow up. If you let them close, they're going to get personal intel and they're going to go out and blast you. But if they don't get close, they're going to be offended and they're still going to go blast you, but they don't have intel. They haven't been close enough to get information on you, but they're going to be offended when they don't get close because they're mad because they had good intentions. That's not what this is about, but I'm just giving examples of what sets the stage for vindictiveness. Is typically good intentions, but bad hearts. It's good intentions, but bad hearts. It's people. One of the lies that the enemy tells you when you're immature is that, you know what, you want to be a good person, but you're surrounded by so many narcissists and toxic people. But if you can form friendships with some of these people, like in the ministry team and stuff, because you saw them laying hands and people were falling out, and you figure if I form connections with them, I can let my bad friends go. You know why I'm explaining it? Because I want you to see how he's working. So whenever you find him working in your mind with that, I want you to understand there's nothing new underneath the sun. This is why he doesn't want you to communicate that you struggle with that, because he doesn't want you to hear that that's normal, but it's a sign of your immaturity. It's a sign of brokenness as well. And, it's not even always a sign of brokenness. Sometimes it's just a sign of immaturity. It's a sign of immaturity. It's this thought that you have that if I get around some healthy people, because my family broken, they narcissists, my friends, they broken, I don't have anybody. So if I cut everybody off that's evil, that's broken, I'm not gonna have anybody. So then you say in your head, if I made friends with her, and her, then I should be good. That's a setup for rejection. That's a spirit of rejection and a spirit of sabotage that's sabotaging your relationship with that church. I'm going to put it out there. It's the spirit of sabotage, because then when you start putting that in your mind, you start having fantasies, and those fantasies lead you to trying to form the connection. You got good intentions. And then when you end up getting what you feel is rejected by them, now you're walking away vindictive. And there are people who even take to the point where they'll even go and try to blast you or hurt you. And it's nothing you did wrong. It's the way they interpret it. Because when God created you, he gave you, remember, Satan's body, or Lucifer's body, was made of pipes. I'm going to show you what perversion looks like. I remember my pastor talked about something like this. But I want to show you what perversion looks like. I'm going to show you. That's not right. That's not good. Okay. Let me just try to follow this line. Okay. It's not this late. Okay. Give me a second, guys. I remember I used to be able to do something when I was in school. I wish I could still do that. And I just show you the way that God shows me, because God teaches me in patterns and pictures. All right. And it's not going to probably, it's not the most attractive, but I just want to show you the picture in my mind before we get into the lesson, because we're not even in the lesson yet. I want to show you the picture in my mind before we get into the lesson. Okay. So this is the way God shows me. This right here is the way God created you. This is the filter. This is the stream between you and heaven. This is your ear. How are you supposed to hear heaven and heavenly things, kingdom things? And God should be able to get in there. You know, he who has ears, let him hear what the Spirit of the Lord is saying. Right. And so let me show you this. Like I said, God teaches me in patterns and pictures. What the enemy does is he tries to intercept this line. This is what happened during sin. Line was twisted and broken or what have you. And so now this becomes your filter. So that means everything you hear is twisted. You interpret everything from a twisted perspective. Does that make sense? Please tell me, let me know if I need to go a little bit deeper on that, or if we good with that. Everything, your pipes are twisted. That's perversion. And I remember my pastor was teaching something about that, you know, about how Lucifer's pipes were twisted. And this is the reason why, you know, when the wind of God went through him, the sound didn't sound the same. That's how it was. So this is what the enemy does. What God does is he works this out. You're supposed to get this worked out so that you can hear things from a godly perspective. So if I say no, you can hear that from a place of non-offense. But if the enemy has twisted you and the enemy you're needed of deliverance, when I say no, or if anybody says no, you hear you're being rejected. They're judging you. They don't like you. It's always been like that. Every time you get around women, every time you get around men, every time you get around, it's them judging you. It's them judging you. And it's not, it's the wiring is twisted. It's a twisted perspective. It's a twisted perspective. And so that's what the enemy does, is he wants to twist your perspective. And let me tell you why. Because God resists the proud and gives grace to the humble. When you're offended, offense is an expression of pride, because then you resist God. And when you resist God, when you close one ear, you open the other. That means you open the ear to hear what Satan is saying, because you're resisting God because of your feelings. You're resisting God because of your feelings. And one of the things, if you're called to leadership, one of the things that you have to master is you have to master dealing with offended people. Because the reality is, and you know, God will train you in your family. Sometimes you come from vindictive families and stuff like that. He'll train you with family. He'll train you. That's why you went through the hell you went through, because God wanted you to get to the place where you become unoffendable. He wanted you to get to the place, and this is why again therapy is needed, that you become unoffendable and that you study the word, because it is the word that twists those pipes back in, right? And it's also endurance that twists, is put pressure on those pipes. That's how God straightens it up, is when you're offended and you don't move. You sit up in a church and you're offended and you don't move. You don't understand what God is doing, is he's straightening out your pipes. When God calls you to something and you don't move, because you're allowing God to put pressure on you. You allow him to put pressure because he wants to straighten it out. Because that perverted way of hearing, you don't have ears to hear. Everything that comes in is twisted. All right. Ephesians 4:26. Be ye angry and sin not. Let not the sun go down upon your wrath. It's okay to be angry, but you're supposed to work that out before you close your eyes. That means pray about it, loose it, let it go. One of the prayers I dare you to pray: God, make me unoffendable. God, make me unoffendable. I never want to be a person who's easily offended. I'm not easily offended. But I also am a person of boundaries. I'm a firm person. I put boundaries up. And I found when you put boundaries up, bound people don't like boundaries. When you put boundaries up, offense is inevitable because everybody interprets your boundaries as you not liking them, you judging them, or maybe you had a conversation with somebody about them, and it's never the case. It's always a case of, baby, the same boundaries you see I got around here. This is just the set the boundaries I have in my life. I'm going to say this real quick. I remember talking to a sister in Christ, and she had connected me with somebody, and it was really just for counseling. And once we had the counseling session, the lady, she was talking or what have you, but she, used a lot of personal language and or what have you. But I kept talking, just counseling. And she told my sister in Christ, she said, "Hey, she don't trust people, do she? Don't let close because she just had, like I felt that push." And she was like, "Yeah, I was telling her, yeah, she does that wall." I want you to hear me when I say this. That's called a boundary. It's called a boundary. That means whenever like whenever I'm dealing with you, whatever capacity I'm dealing with you, I'm gonna keep it in that capacity. If we're doing business, I'm gonna keep it in the business capacity. I'm not gonna let it get personal. I'm giving you wisdom because I had to learn this. I'm not gonna let it get personal. Over the course of time, if you're called to walk with me, then over the course of time, it'll naturally happen. God brings it together so effortlessly. Other than that, I'm gonna put that boundary up. And it's not personal. It's just, hey, I gotta keep things professional. This is one of the things I said. I want to teach a class because I want to teach a boundary setting class. I want to teach you how to wear different hats. This is why my book, Relational Acuity, is going to be so necessary for this hour, because you have to learn how to form relationships and not let people run up. Because a lot of times when you're dealing with broken people, they're in such a hurry to form a soul tie, and they take offense to the fact that you're like, I'm not rejecting you. I'm just saying, okay, I'll give you an example. I was young, immature, freshly saved, and broken. Went to the church I got saved at. And when I went into the church, I didn't know that pastor was my great uncle. I won't say I never met him. I don't think I'd ever met him, or I don't remember meeting him. I can say I probably met him before because he recognized me, but I didn't recognize him. So when I got to the church, I went there with a friend. A friend of mine told me about it, and she was talking about, hey, we got to give our life over to God. We got to go to church. I said, okay. And this was during a drunken episode, coming home from a club, and that was that. So we ended up going to the church that Sunday, and this was the first time in my life I experienced peace. First time. So when we left the church, I come home, and I tell my mom, I was like, Mom, we went to this church and it's amazing. It's powerful, Mom, because I never experienced anything like that. And I've always been a person who wants to see my family saved. So I come up and I'm telling my mom, and my mom, when I tell her the name, she said, that's your uncle. I said, who? She said, that's your great uncle. That's your granddaddy's brother, the pastor. And when she said his name, I remember hearing his name probably a few times in my life, but not so much. And I was like, oh, that's my great uncle. She said, yeah, that's your great uncle. So the next time I went, I went to, because they had this meet and greet. After church, he was standing, and his armor bearers and, some of the ushers and stuff, they would kind of form this aisle, and him and his wife would stand there, and you could go up and greet them, right? You can come up, you had 1 minute or 2 minutes to say, hey, how you doing? Or what have you, and talk to him. So I stood in line, and I think this is like the third time I went or what have you, after I joined the church. I stood in line, and I was thinking, I'm gonna tell, I get a chance to tell him, hey, I didn't know you were my great uncle or what have you. But when I got up there, he said, hello, niece. And I was like, you know me? I was surprised. But over the course of time, and this is a normal stage of immaturity and brokenness. This is how I know how it works. Over the course of time, I started thinking, this is the only safe part of my family that I know. I got other family, but they're typically religious or what have you. Like and I started thinking, oh, I would love, because this is my family. So in a way, there was a part of me that felt entitled to a relationship with them. There was a part of me, but I didn't push it. I'm not gonna say I was pushing up on them, but I made it a point. I would go up there often, and he would tell me stuff about my family history, and he was like, "Hey, niece," and he'd be like, your granddad, your uncle this, and oh, I'm like, nah. He would just talk to me. Long story short, I remember at one point I had moved. I was no longer in the country, and I was emailing. Somehow I started talking to his wife in the email or what have you. I think she emailed me first, and then I responded, and then we started corresponding. And the next thing you know, I ended up getting an email from him. And I could tell even when I was going to church, he was nice and really loving. I honor him to this day. I love him to this day. I think he was a most amazing leader that anybody could ever have. But one of the things that I remember, I could sense that wall. I could sense that wall. You know how I sensed it? Because I was pushing. Right? Even though, like I said, I wasn't overly, like I wasn't overly fantasizing about it. But there was a part of me that desired to have that relationship. But one thing I appreciate that he did it because I'm mature enough to appreciate it, was that he put the wall up in the most loving way. And I can tell you in a way what he was saying, don't look at me as your uncle. Let me be your pastor. Don't look at me as your uncle. Let me be your pastor. Because in that stage, I wasn't mature enough to host an intimate relationship. Can you hear that? Because when you're immature, you always want intimate relationships with people that need to keep you intellectually connected, not intimately connected. But it's frustrating to the people that are mature because you're pushing, you're trying to force a relationship, and they're trying to say, hey, listen, just stay over there. This ain't what I meant to preach. I'm gonna get into the vindictiveness part, but that's what that looks like. The reason I teach this is because I want you guys to be able to form. My goal is to get you out of the cave. If you're in a cave, get you in a church, but also to make sure you don't go in there with the wrong intention and then you leave offended. And you genuinely believe somebody hurt you because your pipes are twisted, but it's nobody hurt you. It's unrealistic expectations. It's unrealistic expectations. Is you not knowing that right now, when you're going into the church, the only thing you need is for them to be your pastor. That's it. Stop looking at the ministry team. Stop looking at the friendships that are formed. Go there and keep your eyes on Christ. Because when you're broken, can I give you a little bit of revelation? Can you hear me? I need you to hear me. When you're broken, you tend to wrestle with idolatry. And the leader's responsibility is to not allow you to idolize them. They have a responsibility of not allowing you to idolize them. Even though you're sitting there with the fantasy, they got to put that boundary up. They got to put that boundary up. But it's frustrating. I'm speaking on behalf of leaders right now. It's frustrating. I've been on both sides of the spectrum. It's frustrating for a leader because they got to deal with so many people walking away hurt, feeling like you wronged them only because they didn't go and learn. Listen, let me come in here. Let me get the revelation and let me go home. Let me serve as much as I can, but let me stay focused on the assignment and not on the person on the altar. I'm telling you, I'm speaking on behalf of leaders. It's frustrating because they want to pastor you, they want to lead you, they want to mentor you, they want to teach you. But when you're coming up with the wrong intentions, and when they put that boundary up and you walk away offended, there's nothing they can do. All right. Examples of vindictive people in the Bible. Like I said, didn't want to really teach on that, but we're going to let the Holy Spirit lead. Examples of vindictive people in the Bible: Herodias. Now, if you don't know who Herodias is, she married King Herod, and John the Baptist goes and rebukes King Herod for him taking his brother's wife, marrying his brother's wife. Herodias is so vengeful. She sits back and her daughter dances for King Herod, and he actually said, wait, whatever you want, I'll give you anything up to half of the kingdom. What do you want? And she goes and tells her mom, hey, listen, this man said he'll give me anything I want. What should I ask for? And her Jezebelic mother says, I want John the Baptist's head on a platter. I want John the Baptist's head on a platter. Another vindictive person in the Bible, we all know Jezebel. It's one of the signs of the Jezebel spirit is vengefulness. Because when people have lost control in life, it sets the stage for the Jezebel spirit to enter into their life. Because then it makes you controlling. And when you start usurping the authority of people because of control, you set yourself up for demonic bondage, because even God doesn't control the will of people. And I found that most people who are controlling are completely unaware of the fact that they're controlling, because a lot of them are covert. They're not dominant. So when you're covert, it's easy for you to assume that you're not controlling, not realizing you need to get therapy so people can point it out. I'm saying this in the most loving way. You need to get therapy so people can point out that's control. I've done counseling with people, and I've seen, one of the manifestations of control is when they withhold information from you, especially like if you're doing marital counseling. When people withhold information because they're trying to control what comes out of your mouth. They're trying to control, like they want you to render them innocent and tell their husband the same thing they've been trying to tell their husband, but they don't tell you all the details. And then you sitting there with the husband, and the husband say, "Did she tell you this?" And you look at it like, "No, you didn't." "Oh, I didn't think that was important." You knew that was important. You knew that was important. That is the spirit of control. Jezebel was an example of a vindictive person. Here it is. Nabal said he ain't selling he's not selling his vineyard. And she she sees her husband talking. "Oh, don't worry, I got it." And she goes and she has two, the Bible calls worthless fellas, to lie on Naboth and say that he had blasphemed God, and then they kill him, which was the law. Of course, she goes after Elijah. And then another one. Surprise, surprise. King David. He had so much blood on his hands, he couldn't even build the temple of God. Now, King David was a good man. One of the things I love about King David is that he was a repentful man. He was one of those people that all he had to know was that he was doing wrong. All he had to be was corrected, and he would repent. Ahab was like that for a minute, but he kept going back to his stuff. And then eventually what happens, if you don't maintain your repentance, then you're going to become hard-hearted. And that's what happened with Ahab. He would repent in a couple of occasions. He repented, but then he would go back because he had of his connection with Jezebel. But David sat up there, and David would when they come and told him about, they were using, it was prophet Nathan, I think, was using, was it Nathan or Nathaniel? I think it was Nathaniel. But he comes up to him, and he is, let me make sure that I get it right, because one of the Bible scholars gonna get me in the comment section if I don't. I think it's Nathaniel. Oh, it's Nathan. It's Nathan. Okay. It's Prophet Nathan. Okay. But he comes and he gives him this parable because of what David did to procure Bathsheba. Really, he was just trying to, it was evil what he did, sleeping with this man's wife. And then and this is what sin does, is it leads to more sin. Every time you sin, now you got to try to cover up the sin. You got to try to cover it up. And that's what he did. He ended up getting this woman pregnant, and he tells her, "Hey, go sleep." He tried to get her to sleep with her husband. He pulls her husband out of war, and he tries to get him. But the man was so loyal. And so David realized, hey, time is ticking. And so he has him set at the front of the war so that he could be killed. And here comes Prophet Nathan, comes to him and gives him a parable about this man who had a sheep, and it was his only sheep. He was a poor man. He loved this sheep. The sheep was like a kid to him. And then here comes this rich man that comes along and commands or demands that sheep be slaughtered, and they take his sheep. Even though this man is rich, he got all this sheep, he got all this cattle, but he has this man's sheep slaughtered. And David said, "Kill him." And Nathan said, "It's you." We all need a Nathan in our lives. We all need people now. This is why I love correction. I don't mind being corrected. I love correction because it keeps you from walking on a path of destruction. Some people can't stand it. They only like correction when people say, "No, it's okay. I've done it before, but try not to do that again." You can get correction and it starts off that, but over the course of time, it's going to get harder and harder. Jesus will rebuke people according to their knowledge of the scriptures. With some people, he just said, "Hey, go sin no more." With those Pharisees, he said, "Vipers, brood of vipers." But David was relatively vindictive. Examples of forgiving people in the Bible: Joseph. We all know what happened with Joseph. His brothers threw him in a pit, ended up selling him off to the Midianites. They take him, and they faked his death. His brothers faked his death to his dad. Joseph ends up having to go through all of these different trials and tests and all these bad things, but eventually Joseph arises and he is made the second hand man, the visor, I think, of Pharaoh. And he gets his brothers there, and they don't recognize him, but he forgives them, and they're so afraid that he's excuse me, still mad at them or what have you. But no, he forgives them. How many Josephs we got in the room? Abraham. Abraham has this encounter with Lot, and I could preach that, but I'm not going to go too deep into that. But he has an encounter with Lot. There is beef between Abraham's, he was Abram at the time, his herdsmen and Lot's herdsmen. And I remember my former pastor had preached this one time, and he was like, if it had been me, I would have went to my herdsmen and been slapping them like, hey, y'all stop. Because, they are rich just from walking with Abraham, the blessing, because you can get the favor of God based on who you walk with. But let me go ahead and say this, because I know a lot of times that's why people try to form connections real fast, because they want the favor that's on another person's life, and they feel like I want to connect to you for that reason. You have to honor. God will always disconnect people from you when they don't honor you. I'm gonna tell you that. I'll tell you that from experience. You ain't got to do nothing. God will disconnect them from you. He will disconnect them from you, because nobody can walk with you that if they're supposed to be gleaning and they get too familiar and they start getting into dishonor, that door was shut. That door was shut. Let me give you a little bit of secret, just a little bit of wisdom. When you're walking with somebody who outranks you, never call them by their first name. Always give them a name or a title of honor to remind yourself. Because if you get to the point where you start calling them by their first name, you're already trickling, or you're flirting with dishonor. I don't care if they say, hey, you can call me by my first name. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't flirt with dishonor, because realistically speaking, a lot of people have never been taught how to have tiered relationship, TIER, tiered. And I'm gonna tell you something. If you ever want to be blessed by God, favored by God, you want to walk in the wealth that God has, you gotta learn to have honor. And you got to have tiered relationships. That means there got to be people in your life that outrank you, that you honor. There got to be people in your life that you honor. And this is such a foreign teaching that a lot of leaders are afraid to teach it, because you're dealing with an offended generation who feel like they are entitled to walk with you. It says, of course. They feel like they're entitled to walk with you, even though they can't balance the relationship out. Meaning they're going to be taking. And when you have a person that outranks you, the only thing you can do is take their time. And most of the time, God wants to use them to help the masses. You can't make them personal. Y'all, can I go here? Can I go here? Do me a favor, like and share. You cannot make them your pastor in a pocket. You can't do that. You cannot take them and make them yours personally. You can't sit there and be like, I don't want to go to this church because it's too big. And then you go to a church where there's 12 members because you want the pastor's attention. What happens when that church grows? That means you got this mentality that you want small churches. There are people that means you don't care nothing about evangelism. You don't care about people getting saved. You want all the attention for yourself. I give you insight so you know where that mentality comes from. Because a lot of times we don't explain it to ourselves. That's where that mentality comes from. You should want your church to become a mega church. You should want your church to become a mega church. You should not be sitting there. I just can't do them big churches, girl. I like to go to my church. My church got 30 members. That means you ain't trying to invite nobody. You're not advertising your church. You're not doing none of that because you want to make your pastor focused on you. You see how evil that is? I want him to be able to call me. I don't like getting lost in the congregation. Get rid of that. Don't make yourself the center of attention. The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Never take one of the laborers off the market, because it's not that many of them. It's already not a lot of people that's laboring for souls. Don't come across one of them, get fascinated with them, and then try to make them yours personally. Can I have a talk with you again? I need to talk to you. Don't do that. Forgiving people in the Bible, Joseph, he forgave his brothers. Abraham, he forgave Lot right there on the spot. He sat back and he's like, hey, listen, because he came out, he showed a solution. Hey, he didn't say, hey, you need to straighten your people out. First and foremost, the only reason y'all are rich and blessed is because you're walking with me. He didn't do that. He said, you know what? I'll tell you what, which way you want to go? You want to go to the left or the right? Whichever way you go, I'm going a different direction. Okay? Let there be don't be no beef between me and you. We ain't gotta have beef. Christians gotta learn that. You gotta learn how to walk away from things. Let's stop thinking everybody's your enemy because you're offended. Hear me. Stop making your emotions your God. Stop making your emotions your God. If your emotions can drive you out of a church, if your emotions can drive you out of a relationship, your emotions are your deity. Abraham, he said, which way you want to go, bro? We good. And the example or the demonstration of his love is that he not only interceded for Sodom and Gomorrah, but he went back and rescued Lot when he had been taken into captivity. He did that part first. So sometimes people can hurt you, but God is not saying they're your enemy. He's just saying, I don't need them walking with you. But if you find them in trouble, pray for them. If you find them in trouble, I got your back. Sometimes the problem is we walk away thinking people are our enemies when they're not. It's just that you were trying to form the wrong relationship with them. Lastly, examples of forgiving people in the Bible. Jesus, he said, Father, forgive them for they know not what they do. While he was on the cross, he said, Father, forgive them for they know not what they do. And we're supposed to be demonstrating the example of Christ Jesus. And I'm telling you, it's not easy because the flesh and the spirit are contrary to one another. The flesh fantasizes about vengeance. And I want you to understand that vengeance has weight. The weight of your vengeance has nothing to do with the person you're offended with. It's from the people in history that you're offended with. You will give the weight of your anger to one person. Why do you think we have these school shooters and stuff like that? That ain't got nothing to do with folks. Most of the time they control it. These are little miniature Jezebels that are angry because they couldn't get the relationships that they want. Some of them were bullied in school. Some of them were not bullied in school. Some of them just mad because they feel entitled. That's where it comes from. They feel entitled. They feel like, well, I should be able to be the most popular kid. I should be able to have this relationship. All right, I'm going to give you some facts. Give me a second. All right, I'm going to give you some facts. You will always reap what you sow, even when you're repaying someone. I have to tell you because I want you to understand the laws of the spirit realm. You will always reap what you sow, even when you're repaying someone. Because why? Vengeance is God's. The Bible says you reap what you sow. So let's just say, for example, man goes out. Okay, I think man kills another man, right? He's wrong in he does it. He kills another man. The man's child that was killed, the victim's child, avenges his father. Angry, hurt because his father was innocent. He comes out and he kills the man that killed his dad. His son will reap that. It doesn't matter whether you're right or wrong. You will reap what you sow. And a little bit of wisdom I've learned. There were many times I thought I was right and I was wrong. Many times. That's why I preach this thing called sorting. That means take the issue, sit it down, and sort it. Find your issue in the problem. And sometimes you need help with that. Sometimes you got to get counseling. Because sometimes I've counseled people that were mad at their parents, mad at their bosses, their pastors, their friends, their husbands, their exes. And in counseling them, I was able to help them to come to the conclusion that they were wrong. They never saw it like that. Somebody did that with me some years ago, and I fell in love with her. When I said fell in love, I'm talking about I loved her dearly. This is when I wasn't saved. Well, no, I was newly saved. I was still a babe in Christ, and I was working at Walmart. And I had all these friends and what have you. And of course, your friends tell you what you want to hear. And I've never been a person that talks, tells my business for the most part, but I would talk about things with my closest. And I was married at the time. And I remember, this lady that worked there, and I started building trust with her. Oh, what have you. And I was mad at the man I was married to, and I told her, and I don't remember what the problem was, but I told her what I was mad about. I told her, and I'll never forget this. Divine Insights, I love you. Thank you, sis. I remember she looked at me and she said, Tiffany, you're the problem. And I was like, what? First person that ever told me that. From that point on, I loved her dearly. I loved her. You know why I loved her? Because she wasn't so afraid of losing me or offending me that she would tell me what I wanted to hear. She told me what I needed to hear. That can save your life. Stop surrounding yourself with yes people. Controlling people surround themselves with yes people, or they will completely cut people off because they don't want to be told what to do. I loved her from that point beyond. I loved her dearly because she told me what I did not want to hear. I'm sitting there and I'm preaching and telling her what this man did and what I did and what I felt. And she said, Tiffany, you were wrong. And she explained it to me and she helped me understand what I was wrong. And I was like, oh. And when I saw him, I said, I apologize. I didn't know I was wrong. I thought I was right. All right. Number 2, if you're vindictive, chances are you're still under the law. Now, I know some people say, that's a lie. I've confessed Jesus as my Lord and Savior. I've confessed him. But the Bible says you got to confess him with your mouth and believe that he's believing in your heart. What I've learned is that a lot of people confess with their mouths is conscious versus conscious versus subconscious. Subconscious is the heart. Some people have made Jesus Lord in their intellect, but not in their heart. That's why God says, many draw near me with their mouths, but their hearts are far from me. You know how many Christians are not real Christians? Because Jesus is not in their hearts. And you will see the evidence. God told us there's evidence. There's evidence of faith. There's evidence of whether that's a good tree or a bad tree. He said a good tree cannot produce bad fruit. The evidence. He said, okay, look for the works of the flesh. What you're going to see in the immature Christian, right? It's okay. But there's grace for that. Versus the fruit of the Spirit. If you don't see the fruit of the Spirit, back up and understand you can't have an intimate connection. You can have an intellectual, because right now what you're trying to do is win that soul for Christ. But you can't have an intimate connection with somebody who's demonstrating a bunch of works of the flesh. Even though when they're demonstrating, when they're broken, they want it more than anything. Number 3, vindictiveness is a sign that you are demonically bound. That means you deal with fantasy. You think that you think, I think about what I've heard vindictive people say. When we go to heaven, I'm going to tell God all this stuff and God going to straighten my name up. That ain't how that work. You got to stop trying to clear your name and move the heck on. Stop trying to clear your name and only focus on serving the Most High God and healing. Becoming an embodiment of love, not just loving people, because you can love people from your intellect, which is not real love. You want love in your heart so that you can genuinely love people. And let me go ahead and say this. Loving people, because there are people that are on the other side of their boundary, like, y'all Christians be talking about that, but y'all don't love. No, baby, you see boundaries, and that doesn't mean you're not being loved by people. One of the greatest signs of love is a boundary. Somebody that's healthy will put a boundary in front of you, and you may not like it. Thankfully, when I got saved, my pastor was not my focus. So when he put that light boundary up, it was strong enough for me to feel it. I respected it. And I kept coming. I was consistent. Bible study, I kept coming. I kept coming to church, and I didn't take offense. Did it feel good all the time? No, because when you're young and you're broken, you're like, eh. But people, y'all, It's surprising to me that people don't understand that boundaries don't mean that people are trying to hurt you. Vindictiveness is a sign that you are demonically bound. It's a sign that you have a demon that's constantly messing with your mind. And the demon is saying, I'll let off if this happens to that person. Number four, vindictive people wrestle with control. Vindictive people are either overtly or covertly controlling. They wrestle with control because they've been hurt in their past. I found that some of the most narcissistic, and not saying they're narcissists, but narcissistic, meaning self centered, inverted people, are people who have lost control at some point in their lives. And they feel like they have to have control everywhere that they go. They don't respect anything that's established. They feel like, no, you have to set the stage for everything has to be set up around them. And you, like I said, this is why having a counselor is so important. So people can point out to you that, hey, the people you think hurt you are not wrong. It's you. Otherwise, you will spend the rest of your life feeling offended and hurt and angry. Number five, vindictive people are ticking time bombs. They wrestle with rage. They are ticking time bombs. They wrestle with rage. Vindictive people typically that anger is building on the inside of them because what happens is, excuse me, when you have unresolved issues, you collect them in your heart. You'll keep collecting offenses and then you'll keep being offensive and you'll have good intentions and you'll keep going places and doing stuff to people. And then you, because of those good intentions, you will just feel like people are evil and people are wrong. And then you'll start saying the people of the earth are wicked. You'll start generalizing. And I told you guys before, generalization is one of the highest expressions of trauma. But you'll start generalizing and you'll collect all of that stuff until the spirit of rage starts materializing. And then over the course of time, the spirit of rage always invites the spirit of murder in. Vindictive people are ticking time bombs. Temper, no, not really. That depends on what you do. It's okay to be angry, but sin not. Now, if it's a temper, if it's okay to be angry, but it's when you express that anger. You know, like when you're doing something to hurt another person, that's when it becomes a sin. This is why the Bible says, "Be angry, but sin not." All right, signs that you are vindictive. How many of you guys are ready for that? You do me a favor. Be sure to like and share. Be sure to like and share. I'm gonna try not to be too before you too much longer. But do me a favor. Be sure to like and share. Signs that you are vindictive. Number one, you lack empathy. It's hard for you to empathize with other people, or the only time you empathize with people is false empathy when you only draw near to other offended people. So if somebody starts talking about this person did this, and you be like, "Girl, for real." See, that's why I don't fool with church people. No, that's because you have something to say and you found a set of ears to say it in. You lack empathy, or you may get around people that you like to draw near people that are hurt or offended. Number two, you have little to no control over your thought life, especially when you're angry or offended. I'm talking to my overthinkers out there. You know, I used to deal with that overthinking. I'm an overthinker, meaning I'm a complete. I think a lot, and that works with my gift or what have you. But I had to learn to control that because outside of being creative, outside of even just because that's revelators, people who revelate the Bible. Typically, there's a lot of information coming in, and whenever there, I call those highways that God sends revelation through. But when you have that, the enemy will inundate you with a lot of stuff because what he wants you to do is become an overthinker as it relates to people. So let's say you happen to be at church and you see two people talking, you're overthinker. You may internalize that. You may think they talking about me. And they genuinely not. And I've said this before. Sometimes people come together because they're saying stuff that they don't want other people to hear. So just because people are whispering and laughing does not mean that they're talking about you. I've seen it way too many times. The example I've given before, two people can come together and a girl can be like, "Girl, I don't know what I ate. I should not have had that Taco Bell. Girl, I was on that toilet last night. Girl, and Tyrone called me while I was on the toilet, and I kept having to hit mute. Girl. And then he talking about FaceTime. I was like, he's like, what? I said, no FaceTime. He was like, I want to see you. And they chuckling. He ain't talking about you. I know I grew up in family like this. This is why I have to talk about this kind of stuff. Doesn't mean they're talking about you. It's a twisted perspective. And now you sit up there and you do this right here. If you chuckle and laugh around me, I ain't gonna look over there at you and be like, no, I'm gonna look into my head. If you look at me, I'm like, hey. Because I understand that you're not talking about me. Or you might not be, and if you are, the rest my fight ain't with you. People come together in communal spaces, in jobs, churches, schools, and they whisper, but it's not always about you. Sometimes, like I said, sometimes people are saying stuff that's embarrassing. Maybe over there talking. Pearl, the Lord always keep me. What you mean, girl? What happened? So, girl, Tyrone came over last night, right? And I was like, I knew I shouldn't have had him in my house. And girl, we went to kissing. And I know it was a bad idea. But girl, we almost did something. But he whipped it out. I ain't never seen something so small in my life. Yes, girl. I said, where is it? And he was like, don't play. No, I'm not. Where? Oh. They're not talking about you. They're talking about something that, you know why I'm telling this aloud? Because some of you, honestly, let's be honest, you've wrestled with that because of your history with people. You wrestle with that. I can show you one of the signs you wrestle with that. You go to a shop to get your nails done, and the people that are doing your nails, they speak Mandarin. And I don't know Mandarin, but you know, we know how it sounds like ding 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 or what have you. So they're doing the nails and they talk, and you get offended. I've sat in the nail shop and seen that. I don't like it when they be speaking it. I can't. And I'm like, I don't care about that. That's their native tongue. They're more comfortable and they can understand each other better when they're speaking that tongue. They ain't gotta speak so they can pacify your suspicion and your insecurity. Gotta be sitting there and they gotta say, I go to, and then the other person don't understand their English. Well, I say I go, and it just so you can hear them. That's where the insecurity comes in. I don't care. Do they talk about us? Some of them do. But that shouldn't be a problem. That shouldn't bother you. They sitting up there doing your nails and you over there, they got it. And maybe because I used to be married to a foreign guy. And he would sit up in the house and he speak French. I understood a little of his language. He spoke French, and he had a native tongue called Buffon. I understood a few of those words because he heard them all the time. He spoke them all the time. I understand most of that stuff. I ain't never walked up to that man and said, why every time you're on the phone you be speaking French? No, if I needed to hear or I wanted to hear, I could go learn it for myself. People speak the language that they're comfortable with. I don't speak any other language. I want to learn Spanish. If and when I learn Spanish, if I happen to be in Spain or a Spanish speaking country, I wouldn't want somebody to sit up there and tell me speak Spanish because I don't understand you. Why you need to be all in my business when I'm talking, if I'm talking on the phone? Why I gotta speak so you can understand my conversation? I want you. I break it down this way so you understand how asinine some of the stuff that we do. It's crazy to say speak so I can understand, so I can eavesdrop. That's what you're saying. So I can feel better. So I don't feel like you're talking about me. I don't give 3 rats feathers. Not put my foot in that water. I don't care what she's saying. If she's sitting up there scraping my foot and she goes, if she's saying, oh, a lot of crust on these foot, If it was, praise the Lord, she's scraping it off. I don't care because my bills are not going to stop. They're not going to be paid whether or not they're not going to miss being paid just because she's talking about me. So I'm not thinking about whether she's talking about me or not. It doesn't bother me. Some of you too sensitive to survive the hard times that may come. Not three rat's feathers, right? Okay. You have little to no control over your thought life, especially when you're angry or offended. You're always having these thoughts, and it builds up. It adds 1 + 1 is 2. It starts and it sets the stage for paranoia. Please understand, mental health issues come from that. It comes from you not guarding your heart, you not having control over your thought life, you putting all of these things together that don't belong together. And then that's what causes you to become vindictive. Because once you keep being inundated with those type of thoughts, you start feeling like I want to hurt people, or I want to take vengeance, or I want to get their attention. Sometimes vengeance is all about getting a person's attention that you feel that's not giving you attention, so that you can have the conversation that you want to have with them. And if they're smart, they won't give you the conversation. How do you guard your thoughts? One, whenever you have an evil thought about it, says cast it down. Speak back to it. If they talking about you, no, they ain't. And even if they are, that's not none of my business. That's between them and God. You pray, make sure you're around the right people. And then you study the fruits of the spirit versus the works of the flesh. When people are exhibiting the works of the flesh, then you don't have, if it's grown in their lives or what have you, and they're not repentful, or they're double-minded, you don't have an intimate connection with them. You have an intellectual. Let me keep them at a distance. Hey, that's my sister and I love her. My sister in Christ. That's my sister in Christ. I love her. But I'm not going to necessarily have an intimate connection. Meaning I'm not going to be telling her my business. I'm not going to let her close or what have you. Then let relationships form organically. Always deal with fantasies. Cast those down. Don't fantasize about having relationships with people, because anytime you put a fantasy in your mind that involves the will of another human being, what you're doing is controlling the will of the person in your mind. So you may imagine that person being a good friend, imagine them saying this, and imagine them saying, girl, here go $500. Girl, you need this, girl, this. And then when you come into the relationship with them, that's not their personality. And so you end up getting offended, and you start controlling them because you're trying to force them to become what you want them to be. Women do this to men all the time. Well, I say we have a tendency to marry our fantasy of a man, but we divorce his reality, because we come in and we have this fantasy about who we need him to be based on our brokenness and based on our voids. And then when he's not that person, we keep trying to show him how to become that person. And we do that to our friends. This is one of the reasons a lot of times we don't have a lot of friends. And because we've dealt with many people trying to control us. Girl, you a clown. I'm much more than that. Say that, you said again. And you start talking deep to him. I'm gonna call you back. Oh no, baby, you trying to keep me in the clown mode. Like this is the only side of me you want to deal with. That means okay, that's fine. But intellectual. I'm not fooling with you intimately. Number 3, signs that you're vindictive. Y'all ready? You're still upset with your parents, siblings, peers, and or exes. Your parents did the best they could with what they knew. They may have been broken. Broken parents break their children. Hurt people hurt people. We understand that. And one of the ways you break the curse of that is, first, if your parents are still alive, they're still on this side of eternity, stop expecting them to become great parents. Learn to have a relationship with them according to where they are, not where you want them to be. Because it sets the stage for offense every time. It hurt. You will constantly keep dealing with disappointment. And I found that that's one of the greatest attacks of the enemy, is to have you repeatedly dealing with disappointment. You think that because you had a conversation with your mother about her narcissism and about this and about the fact that she let you be molested and all that, and you think that that changed anything? No. You're dealing with years of abuse and toxicity in this person. You have to learn to accept maybe she's never going to change. So let me learn to build a relationship with who she is and not who I want her to be. Did y'all catch that? Let me build a relationship with who she is and not who I want her to be. Because if you keep on fantasizing and you watching TV and you see these movies and this great mother praying for her kids, I get it. I've been there before. Or you start looking at families. I've been there before in times past. Looked at families on TV and they were healthy and strong, watching a movie, and it started hurting my heart. And I said, man, I wish I had a family like that. Man, I wish I had a family like that. But realistically speaking, There are a lot of people out here who don't have those families. So make peace with what you have. And that's how you learn to start setting boundaries. When you tell yourself, mama's broken, she's toxic, she got this issue, then you learn how to build a relationship with her according to where she is. Not just your mom, it can be your father, your siblings, doesn't matter. So that you can have a healthy relationship with them by setting the proper boundaries and not having the expectation. It will let you know how much access they can have to you and how many times you may have to say, I can't handle them more than once a week. I talk to her once a week, probably 10 minutes. That's it. It helps you to navigate that relationship. You learn when to get off the phone. When she get into that, yeah, you know, when I hear that, okay, I already know it's time to go. You just ask him to help you to forgive. And you make an intentional effort to not only forgive, you make an intentional effort. And then you, whenever you have the opportunity, because I found that sometimes when people have hurt you, you will have the opportunity to bless them. And what you want to do is, like, for example, you could be pulling past them and their car won't start. And your flesh says, see, they're getting it back. But your spirit says, stop. Ask them if they need a ride, if they need help. But that's if they're not dangerous towards you or what have you. You still, number three, you're still upset with your parents, siblings, peers, or exes. Vindictive people don't forgive their exes. They, a lot of times, and most of them can be kind of stalkerish. Tell me if I'm telling the truth. Am I wrong? I've learned vindictive people can be very stalkerish. They typically are the crazy ex that the people talk about. People will always get offended with your boundaries. And that's the last question I answer, guys. But yeah, they will always get offended with boundaries. Bound people hate boundaries. I don't lower my boundaries to accommodate somebody's offense. Because if offense rises up when I put boundaries, when I put my fence up and their offense rises up, that's a sign that they're bound. And that's a spirit that's responding. And it's a spirit of control. I'm not going to lower my boundaries to accommodate it. I'm not going to lower my boundaries. I just let them be offended. I let them be offended. And there's nothing you can do about that. Honestly, there are some people you're going to have to let walk away from you offended. There's literally nothing you can do, because the only alternative you have is to, in order to pacify them, is to let them come in, have the intimate connection that they fantasize about, and then start controlling you and become toxic in your life. Or you put the boundary up and they walk away. James 4:7, submit yourself to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Understand, when he flees from you, he's going to flee with an attitude. Number 4, this is a sign that you're vindictive. You have trust issues. It's hard for you to trust people. You go in always with your guard up. Every relationship, you're like this. Now, you got to guard your heart. There's nothing wrong with that. But trust issues materialize oftentimes in negative thoughts. And your boundaries are not set because you're just mature and you're wise. They're set out of fear of somebody hurting you. Nobody understands me. This is the devil. The devil will always tell you this. You're different. Nobody understands you. You're unique. So everywhere you go, people are always jealous of you. When people start talking like that, they're broken. That will make you feel like people are always jealous of you. Not everybody's jealous. Jealousy is a real thing. And you're going to deal with jealousy. But you don't want to ever think that it's everybody that is doing something that they're jealous. You don't want to think that that's everybody. Nicole, you are awesome. Thank you, sis. God bless you. I really appreciate you. Thank you. Number 5, you rush to form soul ties with the people that you admire. You rush to form soul ties with the people that you admire. Rushing to form relationships is a narcissistic trait that you either picked up because you are narcissistic or because you've been around narcissists. So the speed limit of every relationship you form is quick because you never learn how to form healthy relationships. I'm gonna do a class on it, don't worry. You never learn how to form healthy relationships. Because you've never learned how to form healthy relationships, all of the relationships you've ever formed have been moving at a certain speed. And you don't understand that healthy relationships take time. They form slowly. They don't form at the speed limit that you want. them to form. And when you're accustomed to being around narcissists, every time you try to form a relationship with people, you're moving too fast. And when people are healthy, especially people who've come out of narcissistic abuse, people who are leaders, when they see you moving at that speed limit, they're like, hey, cool, it's okay. I'm putting this boundary up here. And for you, you've never seen it before. And you're like, whoa, my intentions were good with you. You got trust issues. No, I'm putting a boundary up. Then you feel offended and hurt and rejected and you walk away. Can I tell you a secret? Some of the covenant relationships that God wanted you to form, you never formed them. A lot of people never form them because they come in moving too fast. Remember something my pastor said. And if you don't know, I go to Embassy Church here in Atlanta. Come to the church. It's an amazing church. But I remember something my pastor said. He was talking about, and this is when I first started going to the church. I remember he was preaching and he said, he was talking about people moving, going at a rapid speed, talking about speed limits and stuff. And he said, if you're called to walk with me, we got the rest of our lives. And that blessed my whole wide life. He said, we got the rest of our lives. What's the rush? And I realized in that moment, a sign that a person is not called to walk with you is when they're rushing or they're trying to form a soul tie and force it. Because if you're genuinely, let me tell you a little bit of a secret. Because a lot of times people, like I said, people rush up on leaders. Let me tell you a little bit of a secret. When it comes to relationships with people who are called, anointed, all of that, you will have seasons where you may walk close with them, and then there'll be seasons where you don't walk that close. I have those type of seasons with my pastor. There are seasons I walk close, and there are seasons where we're not walking that close. I don't get offended in and out of season because he has an assignment. I'm not here to pull him off the market. There are different types of relationships. You got to learn to navigate each one. Which is why, like I said, this is why I had to write the book Relational Acuity, because it annoys me that so many people sabotage relationships because they're used to toxic relationships and they keep moving at the speed limit of a toxic relationship, running up on healthy people. And healthy people put up those boundaries and they like, I'm just upset that, your pastor, he, this and that. I'm upset with this. Well, yeah, I get it. But there are people that, you know, that have been there for a long time that serve. And can I tell you a little bit? And I don't mean to go into this, but the most aggravating thing to a leader is people who don't serve, who demand to walk close with them and get mad because they can't. Because the people who work with them, who serve with them, are walking alongside them because they're working together. They're working hand by hand. And basically, when you're not volunteering or doing anything like that, but you're still saying, I want your attention, you're basically saying, I want to pull you away from your work, pull you away from ministry, pull you away from building so you can sit there and look at me and be like, so you can say, so I'm a dreamer. I believe I'm a seer. and and nobody wants to sit there and do that. When you're dealing with builders, a builder wants to keep moving forward. They don't want to stop and get to know about your gifts, your talents, your fears, your insecurities. Y'all, please. There's safety in the multitude of counselors. Please have therapists on hand. Don't confuse your pastor with your therapist. If you truly anointed as a seer, go to some prophetic activations. Stop thinking that if I get around a leader and I tell them about my gifts, they're gonna be like, oh my God, shit, you're gonna have to walk with me. You are so talented and anointed. No. Yes, I'm gonna leave it up. You're so talented and anointed. You gotta walk. You must walk with me. That's not how that works. If you're truly talented and anointed, go die to yourself. Because that's what's hindering your gift. It's that flesh. If you're truly talented and anointed, go die to yourself. Go volunteer. Go get developed. Come to Bible study. You want to show up on Sunday, but you don't want to come to Bible study. But then you keep talking about how anointed you are. You're truly anointed. One of the fruits of the Spirit is patience or long suffering. Sit your cheeks down. I feel like there's nobody that can hold back an anointed person, but that anointed person. There's nobody that can hold you back. He ain't letting me preach. And I remember saying this to a sister in Christ of mine one time. I don't never get it. I said, preach on your Facebook page. What's the problem? Why you got to be on his platform? Preach on your Facebook page. But yeah, you looking at his followers. Don't do that. Stop looking at how many followers a person has. And you don't even want to preach to the 3 people that can log in and be blessed with what you have to say. And you're looking at somebody that's got these many followers and you keep on fantasizing about getting on their platform. You truly called anointed. You don't mind preaching to 3 people. When you're not called and anointed, you fantasize about platforms. You think you're entitled. I got to form a connection with such and such. You go into churches, you're always trying to form connections with the most powerful people or the people who have the greatest titles up in there because you think that's going to help your ministry. Not supposed to be your ministry. That's God's ministry. And when God is ready for you to preach to the masses, he will bring the masses to you. Stop trying to connect your way to the top. You'll mess around and get around all these people and you can't even handle that. You can't. You can't handle the darts that are thrown at people who are influencers. I'm an influencer. You know how many darts I deal with every week? From people with fantasy, easily offended, people who email and think that you're supposed to take the time out and give all the types of mentalities that people have. People that come in your comment section, somebody tried to price shame me because I have mentorship, and the highest mentorship that I have, which nobody's gotten yet, by the way, is $24,000 to $99,000. Somebody will put in my comment section. And if you listening in, get delivered. Because you can't price shame me because I'm going to put a mentorship up there that's going to cost $1 million. I know my worth. You can't price shame me. You can't make me come down and then make it. And I got the lowest. You can get it in the mentorship, $199. I even have $99. You can join Esther Prep University now, month to month. That's dirt cheap. I don't care what nobody say. But if you can't afford it, it's okay. But you don't try to come to somebody's stuff and try to price shame them. Ask if they gonna lower their price. No, baby, I'll raise mine. You will never get me to the point where I gotta be like, oh my gosh, they're talking about me. Oh my gosh, they want to go live and talk about me. I don't give 3 rats feathers. Talk. I don't have to defend myself. I'm going to do what God gives me grace and the permission to do. And I don't care who doesn't like it. I don't care who doesn't like it. If I want to come out $25 million for a mentorship, baby, I'll do it. And that's my business. And if somebody can afford it and they say, I think you're worth it, that's their business. If you can't afford it or you don't understand honor, that's your business. But don't come after somebody and try to attack them just because you sitting up there and they ain't gonna go to the highest price. That's why I said get delivered. Gonna go find the highest price, then go point out the $99. Gonna go find the highest price on there. Baby, wait, give me 1 week. I bet you I have $1 million mentorship up there. I bet you I have $1 million mentorship. I'm gonna tell you, God tamed me. He taught me, don't let these people offend you. They kill leaders. They send leaders to commit suicide. Not this one. Not this one. Whatever. If you can't afford it, don't come. If you can't afford it, it's people that don't value you that want you to lower your price so they can get access, so they can come in and not value you. You ain't got to value me, but I value myself. Okay. All right, let's go. You got trust issues. You rush to form soul ties with people that you admire. Typically, that comes from this mindset of, I'm not normal. Nobody understands me. But this pastor here or that person there, they understand me. I feel like they understand me. We're just like, no. Don't do that. Don't do that. Okay. Number 6, you don't take correction easily because you're always focused on your intentions as opposed to focusing on your actions. You put in parentheses, prideful, full of pride. God resists the proud and gives grace to the humble. Can't nobody correct you. That see, you misunderstand. You when I see pride, I know there's other stuff back there. Prideful. Nobody can correct you. Nobody can say that's out of order. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't say that. This is how you should do. And I'm gonna tell you a little secret. Nobody can lead. Nobody can pastor a prideful soul. You can't. You can't. Nothing you say, they will never accept it. When you try to correct them, I feel like you misunderstand me. Ugh. No. If you want to be pastored, you got to be able to be corrected. Because you're focusing on your intentions again. That's no. I'm telling you, you're controlling. I'm not controlling. I just need you to listen to me. I remember having a conversation with this person that was in my life. Was a woman, an old in-law, and I told her she was controlling because we were having this conversation. I remember she was sitting on a bed, and she was like, "I'm not controlling. You say I'm controlling. I'm not controlling." I said, "Okay, what is it?" She said, "My problem with you is you don't listen." I said, "I hear you. I'm listening to you." "No, you don't listen." I said, "Okay, what does that mean?" She said, "You don't listen." I said, "Okay, what does that mean?" Because I hear what you say and I respond to what you say or what have you. She said, you don't listen." I said, "What does that mean to you?" She said, "When I tell you to do something, you don't do it." I said, "That's control." People who are controlling always try to decorate their witchcraft. They always try to decorate it. They always try to find a nice word to call it. It's not control. Sister Kenyatta, you're awesome. Thank you, sis. It's not control. You just don't listen. I found if you got people in your life, they keep saying you don't listen, they're probably controlling. And one of the things I do with people like that, I say, "What do you mean?" I'm telling you how to break through to them. What do you mean? Give me a definition. Give me an example of. Give me an example. Show me an example. Now, see, you ain't. No. Because if you're right, I'm telling you right now, I'll go repent. I'll get therapy. I'll make sure I set up a deliverance session. If it's a deliverance issue, I'm so serious. I am determined to make sure that I'm walking in alignment with God. And so maybe you see something that I don't see. So what I'm asking you is give me an example. Give me a description. And if they can't do that, it's because they understand that their description is going to reveal their controlling ways. They know that. They can't think of the words. Give me an example. You don't listen. No. I hear you. I've always responded. I've done some of the things that you wanted. I just don't do everything you want. Give me an example. When I tell you to do something, you know, controlling. Baby, no, that ain't how this works. You tell me to do something. Like she used to say, "Come, get up. You going to the store with me?" No, I ain't. I don't feel like going to the store. Google his name. Google his name, and it comes up with his website. Or no, she just posted his website. Sister B just posted his website. Just highlight his website and go to the website and click on deliverance. They're always trying to master witchcraft. They're always trying to decorate it because they're trying to hide it and make you think it's something else. No, baby, that's witchcraft. It's witchcraft. And people be like that. I don't know why I keep attracting narcissists because you keep playing with witchcraft. You don't know how to have relationships where you come in and you just, hey, you got your will, I got mine. And let's walk together. Let's communicate. I've learned that controlling people have been controlling for so long that they don't even realize they're controlling anymore. And it's hard to get them to understand that they are controlling. And this is why when I talk to those type of people, I say, give me an example. And I'm genuine when I say it. I'm like, if there's something wrong with me, I want to know. Give me an example. Tell me something I did that will make, because if you really tell me something I did wrong, and you show me you did this and this, and I'm like, dang, you're right, I apologize, and I'll work on that. But I found that most of the time people don't have examples because they're dealing with control, and they feel like if you do what I told you to do, we'll have a good relationship. I don't want that type of relationship with you. I want no relationship where I got to be under somebody's control. No, I like healthy, godly relationships, functional relationships. And don't misunderstand what I'm saying, because when it comes to it, you got to have people that outrank you that can correct you and you make the adjustments, and that's not control, that's you submitting. You got to have somebody in your life that can tell you you're wrong and tell you stop doing this and don't do that. You got to have somebody in your life that can tell you that, and you say, okay. And I'm gonna give you a little bit of this before I move on. Stop trying to control people who outrank you. That's high level witchcraft. You'll get yourself in a lot of trouble. Man, I got to teach this thing on relationships. A lot of people go through stuff and they don't know why. Don't go in there and try to control your pastor. Stop trying to control people that outrank you and you don't think you need deliverance. This ain't how I expected, the church to be. Baby, God is not gonna stop the pastor to conform the church to your liking. Go in there and sit in it as it is. If God sent you, sit down and be quiet and learn. So if you're vindictive, you don't take correction very well because you always see it. Those filters are twisted. You see it as people. You feel like correction is them judging you, and you think that maybe they had a conversation about you. I'm telling you, you know why I teach it, because a lot of people on here, you can honestly say, Tiffany, a lot of the things that you're teaching, I've been like that. And so when you realize it, and I give you language for it, it helps you to make whatever adjustments and to say, okay, I got to get some therapy. My assignment is to give language so that you can understand it's not healthy behavior. You got to be able to take correction. You're always thinking about, oh, no, my intentions were good. They judged me. Somebody talked about me, or this happened. That ain't the case. Number 7, you're either narcissistic, you've been called or diagnosed as a narcissist, or you have a long history with narcissists. And let's focus on the last one. A lot of people who have had a long history with narcissists typically become narcissistic. And what I mean narcissistic, it means narcissist-like in their behavior. And they don't know it because they've been in that environment. So it becomes a mechanism of survival. You're in survival mode. And so anytime you form relationships with people, you feel the need to be in control, whether it's passive control or it is dominant control. You end up feeling the need to be in control, but you got good intentions, which leads to hurt because people start rejecting you because of the way when you're trying to form relationships with healthy people, they reject you not because they don't like you, but because you keep trying to control them, and you're not identifying it as control, but they're identifying it. They're identifying that you're trying to bully them, so they start backing off. And you don't see it. Like I said, most of the time I come in contact with people that exhibit that type of behavior, they don't see the control in their life. They don't see it. And a form of control is not being able to take correction. A form of control is coming around people that outrank you and always talking, not letting them talk because you want to lead the conversation. They got more wisdom than you, but you want to pour into them and not be poured into. That's pride. This is why God resists the proud and gives grace to the humble. You are the narcissistic. You've been called or diagnosed as a narcissist, or you have a long history with narcissism or with narcissists. You've been in those environments to the point, and this is I'm giving language to it because I want the people to get free. I want you to get up, go into a church, read your Bible every night, pray, and say, God, deliver me. But when you have a history with narcissists, you're probably going to have a history with fantasy. And you're going to always sit up there and feel like, I want to get around the most powerful people in the church. I want to get around powerful this, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. And you'll have good intentions and fantasies and stuff. And then you'll constantly keep getting rejected. And if you get in a position of power, you're going to hurt people. You'll hurt people because you're going to start trying to get your revenge for everybody that hurt you. You don't realize you're doing it, but somebody come in. If somebody put you in a place of power in the church, and somebody comes in that look like they outrank you, or look like they look like somebody that hurt you, you're gonna treat them like crap. You go to doing the opposite of evangelism. Rather than winning souls for Christ, you drive them away. And it's all because of those environments you came out of. If you've been in an environment of smoke, you're going to smell like smoke. You need to go and wash yourself, and you need to walk until that scent comes off of you. That's the time of sanctification. You need to consecrate. Don't just come out of a narcissistic relationship and jump straight to want to go get on the altar and lay hands on people. Because you want to feed your narcissism. And you'll set yourself up for a grand fall. Because you can't do that with God's people. You can't. You can't keep doing it. You'll get the grace God to give you. You got to keep repenting. You got to take your time and let God heal you. Sit in the congregation. Go study. Get a therapist. And when the Lord tells you it's time for you to get up and get into ministry, get up and go. But don't rush. Don't try to rush a relationship with your pastor or anybody on the ministry team. Go to church and do it. Just go. Stop trying to force and rush up on relationship. Take your time. Don't run the speed limit of your former relationships, the toxic ones, because healthy relationships are not formed in a vacuum. They don't form quick. Some of the people that I think about leaving at my church, some of the people that I formed relationships with, it was natural and organic. It wasn't forced. It was just natural and organic. We kept running into each other, hey girl, and then we realized we were similar in so many ways. We talked, and that's it. Let God bring the right people and not the people you fantasize about walking with, because that may not be your call. Number 8, it's hard or it feels nearly impossible for you to get over an offense. Because you keep adding to it in your mind, you keep meditating on it, you keep thinking about it, you keep thinking about what you feel like people are trying to do, who said what. It keeps building in your mind. That's a sign that you're vindictive. It keeps building in your mind because the enemy's doing it to get you to do something, to sow a seed so you can reap it. And a lot of vindictive people, they keep going through stuff because they keep reaping seeds that they've sown. And there are so many Christians out there who really don't believe that you reap what you sow. They don't believe that that's the law. They don't believe that at all. They think that I'm a good person, I got good intentions, and God knows my heart. But the word says, whatever you sow, you will reap. There's a thing called harvest season, and it's not the devil attacking. It's just you reaping. And sometimes reaping is the devil having a permission to give you back what you sowed. Oh, y'all don't want to believe that. I know that's going to sound all like I'm being, okay, I'm going to prove it with scripture. Give me a second. Give me a second. Matthew 18:25. I think it's going to be through 32. Let's see here how far this goes. Okay, yes, here we go. And this is from the Message Bible. That's what I pulled up. So, okay. The kingdom of God is like a king who decided to square accounts with his servants. As he got underway, one servant was brought before him who had run a debt of $100,000. And this is just them giving the equivalent. He couldn't pay up, so the king ordered the man, along with his wife, children, and goods, to be auctioned off at the slave market. The poor wretch threw himself at the king's feet and begged, "Give me a chance and I'll pay it all back." Touched by his plea, the king let him off, erasing the debt. The servant was no sooner out of the room when he came upon one of his fellow servants who owed him $10. He seized him by the throat and demanded, "Pay up now." The poor wretch threw himself down and begged, "Give me a chance and I'll pay it all back." but he wouldn't do it. Notice he owed $100,000. Now it's not the actual interpretation, because the amount was equivalent to 200 years worth of service, which meant that he could not humanly pay it back. But in here, they got the interpretation as $100,000 and $10. But the message comes across clearly. He owed his master $100,000. His master forgave him, but he came across somebody who owed him $10 and he wouldn't forgive him. Let's get back into that. The servant was no sooner out of the room when he came upon one of his fellow servants who owed him $10. He seized him by the throat and demanded, "Pay up now." The poor wretch threw himself down and begged, "Give me a chance and I'll pay it all back." But he wouldn't do it. He had him arrested and put in jail under the debt until the debt was paid. When the other servants saw this going on, they were outraged and brought a detailed report to the king. The king summoned the man and said, "You evil servant, I forgave your entire debt when you begged me for mercy. Shouldn't you be compelled to be merciful to your fellow servant who asked for mercy?" The king was furious and put the screws to the man until he put the screws to the man. Okay, put the screws to the man until he paid back his entire debt. And that's exactly what my Father in heaven is going to do to each of you who doesn't forgive unconditionally anyone who asks for mercy. This is the Message Bible. So the equivalent, my eye is burning. You can see it turning red. I'm sorry, I gotta try to take these contacts out. But the equivalent is 200 years of service. Whereas I think the other one was equivalent at the time to like a month of service, what the other guy owed him. And so this is an example of Jesus forgiving us debt that we ourselves could not pay off. But when it came down to it, Jesus forgive us for our debt, and we like, "God, thank you for your forgiveness." But then when it comes to somebody else that hurt us, or somebody else that rejected us or betrayed us or did something, or sometimes people didn't do nothing to you, it's just your perception, but you won't forgive them. You won't forgive them. So that's what that means. It's like you exalt yourself over the Lord. And the King James version said that he turned him over to the tormentors until he was able. The king turned over the unforgiving servant to the tormentors. The tormentors are demons, guys. If you don't know, the tormentors are demons. So a lot of times when I'm doing deliverance on people, I've seen cases where a devil will say, "I got rights to this person." And most of the time when they're talking like that, they're lying. And in other cases, they're not. But the main reason, the greatest hindrance to deliverance is unforgiveness. Demons will not come out of you if you're unforgiving. They're just not going to come out. They're not going to come out. And sometimes a demon it'll toy with the deliverance minister by sending out other demons. Like the main demon is not going to want to come out. So it'll have other demons saying, to announce themselves or what have you. And that's usually a distraction. Like, a demon may say lust or what have you. You say, "Okay, lust, come out." And then another demon come out and say this or say that. It's usually a distraction. And it's to keep you from focusing on the strong man, what have you. But most of the times, what gives a demon a legal right to people is unforgiveness. It's because they're walking around with an unforgiving soul and they are vengeful. They are vengeful. The Bible says, what is it? "Let not the sun set on your right. Give no place to the devil." Give me a second. The Bible tells me. Let me make sure. I know that scripture normally, but because my eyes are okay. Give me a second. All right. Okay, here we go. "Be angry and sin not." This is what I needed. "Be angry and sin not. Let not the sun go down on your wrath." We read this earlier. "Neither get place to the devil." You get place to the devil that means you allow yourself to get bound by the enemy when you keep hosting an offense. You keep hosting an offense because that spirit's going to keep speaking, what they did, what they said. And then the next day that spirit is still sitting there. And then what happens is you become acclimated with that spirit. It becomes familiar because it's a constant voice in your ear talking about and reminding you about, and then it's going to get in, and then you end up needing deliverance. So what have you? And understand, when demons come in, they don't come in alone. They typically are going to set the stage for other demonic entities. That is the goal of the demonic spirit, is to bring in as many spirits as possible. Number 9, you wrestle with entitlement. That is a sign that you are vindictive. You think people, it's a sign that you're dealing with unforgiveness. And because entitlement usually signals that either you've been given your way your whole life, your parents never really corrected you, never disciplined you, and they gave you everything that you wanted, or you probably come from a traumatic house. So I found the trauma, both realms, that the trauma is pretty much the same. And I see that, I'm talking about in my family, I've seen that. So I see that the effects of it are one and the same, but you wrestle with entitlement. You feel like people owe you, they owe you a relationship, they owe you this, they owe you that, or what have you. You wrestle with entitlement. That is a sign that you're vindictive. Because when you deal with entitlement and when people don't give you what you want, you're typically going to host that offense. You will carry that for months, years, or for the rest of your life, and you will set out to hurt those people. And understand that vindictiveness doesn't always materialize as you saying, okay, what I'm going to do to this person. It can materialize in you gossiping about the person. It can materialize in you having an opportunity and you go to tell somebody, that's why I don't fool with her. Yeah, I used to talk to girl. She thinks she this. Vindictiveness. You wrestle with entitlement. And that's a big thing in the American church. That's a big thing with American Christians, is that a lot of Christians wrestle with entitlement. When I talk about it, a lot of times people come into a church and like, I need to talk to your pastor. There's a whole congregation. Why you need to sit? I just need to have a meeting. And I am Seer Jane Doe from behind the veil. The Lord never lets me out, but He only let me out to come to your church to make the pastor feel like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we got somebody that's been dwelling behind the veil that came up in here who never gets to come out. But the Lord is flattery. That I came here because the Lord sent me, and I've watched your church on online, and I felt the presence of God, and I just wanted to come and say an amazing job that you're doing. The Lord is pleased with you. You don't even realize what you're doing. You're telling the pastor right there that you outrank him. That's what you're saying. That's demonic. God didn't send you in there to do that. That's a spirit that's telling you you're hiding behind the veil. The veil was rent. It was ripped when Jesus said it is finished. If you still dwelling behind the veil, I promise you, you're probably hiding behind a shower curtain. Come from back there and get yourself a therapist. I've been dwelling behind the veil, and I'm usually just enclosed in my home, and the Lord never lets me go anywhere. He said, you need to come out here. Can I pray for you? How narcissistic is it when you walk into a church and ask the pastor, can I lay hands on you? And be standing there expecting the pastor to say yes and hoping that they're going to fall out. Oh gosh. If we here now, I can't imagine where we're going to be in the next 15, 20 years. I will never come. I dusted my feet. I got in my car and I dusted off my red bottoms. You painted those red. I know it doesn't matter, but they're still red bottoms. I got in my car and the Lord said, where peace don't abide, dust your feet. When they don't accept you, dust your feet off. I asked the pastor if I could lay hands on him. I wanted to lay hands, and he said no. If you're truly trusting God, you shouldn't worry about anything. So I left out of that church. And I got in my car and I dusted off my heels. There was some red paint on the ground. Yes, some of it dusted off, but I dusted off my heels. I got in my car and I'm telling you, the Lord is not pleased. So now it goes from them saying that the Lord sent me and you're truly anointed to them trying to speak curses over the pastor. Oh no, he's not a good man. He's not a true man of God. How can I ask you a question? How is it that you can say God sent you to a place and then turn around and say something evil about the place at the same time? Make it make sense to me. Make it make sense to me. How is they anointed one day and now they're a demon the next day? Make it make sense. You driving down the highway mad. God, I call fire down on that place. And you think you healthy in the head. Make it make sense. People do that stuff. Get mad because they feel like they in their mind think they outrank the pastors, the leaders. I'm just so pleased with you. And the Lord is pleased with you. May I lay hands? No? Okay, well, I guess I'll wrap this meeting up. Evil. Wrestle with entitlement. Feel entitled to walk with people that you don't know just because you feel like that we're in the same. Like I be having visions and stuff like that. Especially when I'm on the toilet. I'm talking about when I'm on the toilet, I be going into trances. Probably need deliverance. Yeah, I just go into trances. I just be some of the most broken people. I went into a trance on the toilet. And I started seeing angel dust. I started seeing all types of things. You need deliverance. That's what it is. You ain't see nothing. All right. Number 10, you are not emotionally stable. This is a sign that you are vindictive. You are not emotionally stable. That means your emotions do like this. Just like that old serpent Leviathan, go in the water and come back up. Emotions. One day you excited, the next day you're offended. Emotions all over the place. Not emotionally stable. You go from being, oh my God, you're such an amazing woman of God, to, you know what, you're a witch. Female in ministry don't like you, or well, not even don't say don't like you. Female in ministry don't agree with you. She's a witch. Make it make sense. Where was I? Number 11, you wrestle with suspicion or paranoia. These are signs that you're vindictive. You wrestle with suspicion or paranoia. You sit up there and you think people are talking about you. You think that people are after you. You think people are plotting on you. That's why you got a feather for your Facebook photo, or an angel or a lion. If you got something strange up on your photo, please don't think I'm talking at you. I'm saying this is what I've seen. This is a pattern. There's an angel with fairy dust around her with her back turned as your Facebook photo. It's got lions and stuff. You're so hiding out of fear of people, terrified of people. You don't want nobody to know who you are, where you are, because suspicion and paranoia, you think people are after you. God said, think no higher of yourself than you ought to. That's what happens. When you're traumatized, what you do, can I give you, let me give it to you in a picture. What happens if I go and eat and I keep overeating? My flesh. You want a picture? Okay, I'm going to show you. If I keep overeating, this is what my flesh will do. I want to show you. Let me put some pants on her, because I don't want nobody to think I'm trying to draw a naked picture. I ain't doing no naked picture. Put some pants on, okay? All right, put some pants on her. All right, let's put some pants on her. You see that? That's a stomach. If you keep overeating, I'm just giving you an inside view of what happens. When you are full of yourself and you keep eating this dialogue that you are special, you are anointed, everybody's after you, and you keep overemphasizing on your own thoughts, that's what your ego starts to do. Your pride, it starts to overflow. It starts to you become obese as it relates to your perspective. And what that does is it makes you start thinking everything's about you. That's why God said, think no higher you something ought to. So you start thinking every time somebody talks, they're preaching about you. You can't even go to a church because the last four pastors, you thought they were preaching about you. You think that every time somebody says something, they laughing at you. You start thinking that people are after you. People driving on the highway, you think that they can sense your anointing. Then the devil trying to kill you on the highway. You're over, you're, if you keep feeding yourself all of that stuff about you, your ego will overflow. And you don't realize it's ego because in your mind, you're humble. And you can be nice and giving, but still your ego can be overblown because your seed is never really a seed. It's bait because you feel like once I give, then you owe me 10 times in return. You have that's what it looks like. That's what narcissism looks like. It has an inflated or a swollen ego. It's a sign of trauma, it's swollenness. Your ego begins to expand. And that's what sets the stage for paranoia. Because then, when your ego is expanding, there's no room for revelation. There's no room for wisdom. There's no room for correction. You want everybody to focus on you. You want the church to see. You don't want to go sit in the audience. You too anointed for that. You too anointed. They got to know you because you've been having visions. You get caught up in trances. And you feel like I need to be around anointed people. But then you start getting suspicious. It's what drives you into isolation, which is one of the points that I put up there, but I should have put up there, but I did. Isolation, the sign. That's what drives you into isolation because now you're suspicious of everybody. Love it. Easing God out. You wrestle with suspicion of paranoia. It's a sign that you are vindictive. It's a sign of an unhealthy mind, which leads to vindictiveness. Number 12, you rarely take accountability. You haven't learned anything from your past. Instead, everyone is to blame but yourself. You rarely take accountability. If somebody tells you because you keep focusing on your intentions, you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free. The Leviathan spirit, what it does is it forms a barrier around the heart and it makes it hard for you to hear the truth because you keep focusing on your intentions. And when people try to tell you about yourself, you can't hear it because you think they're misunderstanding you, misjudging you, misreading you. And so you spend too much time trying to explain to them. You're trying to cultivate how they see you. You're trying to tell them, you want them to see you how you see yourself or how you want them to see you. Rather than hearing people say, hey, this is an issue in your life. No, see, wait, I'm not about to let you speak that into my life. That is not how I am, okay? You don't take accountability. You're uncorrectable. You should know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. But when you refuse to know the truth and nobody can tell you the truth, you stay down. And you walk away from everything offended, thinking everybody misjudged you. Nobody understands you. Everybody jealous of you. Everybody talking about you. Everybody this. They intimidated by your anointing. They're intimidated about everything. You rarely take accountability. You haven't learned anything from your past. Instead, everybody else is to blame. Your ex is to blame. Your pastor is to blame. Your mama to blame. Your daddy to blame. Everybody to blame but you. I'll take a little bit of accountability. I can say I was wrong in this, but no, Tiffany, you understand? My life is because of the anointing on my life. No, baby. That's a Leviathan spirit that won't allow the truth to come in because if the truth came in, you get free. If the truth came in and you took accountability, listen, if you deal with offense, if you deal with rejection, you deal with anything, look for an opportunity to take accountability. I don't care how wrong people are. It'll set you free. And you know what? If they wrong, God will deal with them. I can sit there and take accountability for relationships 2 marriages. The 2 marriages I was in dealt with abuse, being cheated on, all that crazy stuff. However, now the first one was abuse. The second one was a lot of other crazy crap, cheating and witchcraft and all that stuff. And that was culture. It's culture. And so, regardless of what they did, I have to take accountability. Right? That's what keeps me from making the same mistakes. So, here's my accountability. First one, I was barely saved. I had just gave myself over to the Lord. Went into fornication, really adultery, because he was going through a divorce. And I didn't care what the Bible said about fornication or adultery. I didn't care nothing about that. I was looking at my intentions. I had good intentions. And I thought that once we got it together, once we got married, it was going to be legal. I wasn't dead to myself. I hadn't crucified. I wasn't in my purpose. I didn't even know who I was. I was new to my journey. Second time, still adultery. Met him while going through a divorce. Didn't know how to be single. Got into a relationship. Went into adultery. Sleeping with him outside of marriage and not caring. And knew better. Knew even better by this time. I definitely, the first time, I understand, I was just a baby. I came out of trauma. So I can excuse that. The second time. So I can talk about the fruit, which is the end. But I got my deliverance when I focused on the root. It's the seed I sown to get those fruit. I sowed the seed of adultery and fornication. I didn't do what the Bible told me to do. I did what I wanted to do. And I felt like God had no choice but to understand and to give me grace. You get delivered when you look at the root. You get mad when you look at the fruit. You don't take much of nothing when you come out of something and all you know is he cheated on me, he hit me, he drop kicked me when I was in the shower with the curtain and everything. I can't believe it. I didn't feel I hit my head against the water thing and it turned the cold water off and it was hot water running in my face and then I sat up and hit my head on the thing and then when I was coming out of the shower, he drop kicked me again and I fell and I hit my head against the toilet and my head went in the toilet water and he hadn't even flushed it because he just got off the toilet and I can't even, now this didn't happen. I'm just talking crazy, but I'm just saying. Those are true things, true events, true things that happen to you. But take accountability for the root. Was he saved? Did you sleep with him? You sowed the seed to reap that. When you take accountability, you get healed. It breaks the former you. Put the old you on blast. That's how you get free. If you want to ever deal with, if you say, Tiffany, I have trouble forgiving other people, it's because you keep focusing on the fruit. Look at the root. Find you in the equation. That's how you pull yourself out of it. I don't look at, when I get hurt or what have you, people can be 99% wrong. I'm still looking for the 1% that belongs to me. Because that's how I get free. I don't ever want to see that crap again. Maybe it's because I'm at this stage or age in my life. A lot of the traumas I've been through, I never want to see them again. So I want to learn as much as I can so I never see that again. I will never look divorce in the face again, ever in my life. I will never look at those issues. The stuff I looked at, fornication, will never be staring me in the eyes. Nope. That crap that I ain't never looking at that stuff again. I took accountability. I repented. I went through my deliverance, got my therapy, did my part. I studied my Bible every night. And you know what? That still don't entitle me. But I give myself over to God. Present this body as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is my reasonable service. I took accountability. That's how I got free. That's how I got free. When I took accountability, I was wrong. Forget what they did. Forget that. Washing that away. They're forgiven. I was wrong. And if it hadn't been them, it would have been some other dude. Because I set the stage for that. I set the stage because I would not follow the word. I'm showing you how to get free. Take accountability. Even if you're hurting right now, take accountability. That's how you get to your healing real fast. Somebody broke your heart, take accountability. Somebody needed to hear that. Even if somebody broke your heart, dogged you out, cheated on you with your best friend and your dog, what did you do wrong? How did you set the stage for that? Well, Tiffany, I was saved. I was in church and I was abstinent and what have you. I still did all the right stuff and he still cheated on me. Okay. Were you truly abstinent from the heart? Was it a work? One. Two, well, define your abstinence. Because some people define abstinence as he didn't penetrate me vaginally. Did you touch? Y'all having phone sex? Was you touching him? Y'all masturbating? All that? Come on. I've known people to sit back and talk about having oral sex, anal sex. It's still sex. Phones, it's still sex. Got to stop being so religious and what is the word I'm looking for? It's escaping me, and I feel it escaping me. I'm just drawing a blank. But you got to stop being so religious and thinking that, okay, you can get over on God. I tell people be thinking that God is, there's an angel sitting there at the opening of their vagina, standing there and say, well, report today. There was no penis that entered this vagina. It's been 3 years. No. God looks at the heart. You can be abstinent and still be a fornicator because your heart is not in agreement or alignment with God. The only way you're going to come into alignment with God in that area is you have to get understanding. This is why he said, above all that getting, get understanding. If you just know that the Bible, or get knowledge, the Bible says knowledge puffs up. If you just know that the Bible says to present your body as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. If you just know, but you don't understand, it becomes a work. Legalistic. Thank you. That's it. It's legalism. Legalism. All right. Let's try to finish this. Some of your relationships, number 13, I got 2 more after this. Some of your relationships were formed in the realm of offense. We talked about this earlier. Some of your relationships were formed. This is a sign that you're vindictive. You offend your way into a relationship with people. You know how many people tried that crap with me and they be surprised that it don't work? As if I didn't come out of a toxic family, like I haven't seen it all. You feel like you got to offend your way into a relationship with a person. You got to hurt them. So force them to have a conversation with you. Force them to have to come into the manager's office. Force them. You feel like you got to hurt them. You try to offend your way into a relationship with people. You got to traumatize them and then form a relationship with them. Number 14, you put people on punishment when you don't get your way. That is so common nowadays. Like I said, I'm going to do a class. I got to deal with it. I got to break this stuff off of God's people because you know what? If we're going to be bringing in the laws, the only way we're going to bring them in is if we stop acting like we idiots. If we stop going out here acting and treating each other like crap. If we stop, we got to break this stuff. Stop putting people on punishment because they don't give you what you want. These big old adult-sized tantrums are not good. They don't look good on us, man. We're supposed to be walking around here and just forgiving and then just understanding that, okay, we're all in a different place or what have you. But putting people on punishment. I ain't talking to you. Can we go here? Singles, can I go here with you? You know what I want? I want to minister to every single that I can to help you not make the mistake I made. I would love to show you because a lot of people that are waiting for marriage are not ready. They're not ready. You know, I know they're not ready when they don't get their way. When they don't get their way. And the thing about marriage is every day, you're not going to agree on everything. You're not going to always get your way. And sometimes, because you've mastered manipulating and controlling people, you think that you're going to do that with a man. You probably did if you get you a nice little Ahab. And even Ahabs fight back. Even Ahabs fight back. I would love to help a lot of women because I see this is a problem with women. Honestly, it's a problem. We've been taught, one, that we're victims. Okay, can I go here? Can I go here? And I need you not to get offended. I need you to share, but I need you not to get offended. As blacks, we were taught that we were victims. We've come to think that we're victims. Anytime you have minority as women, we come to believe that we're victims. That mentality sets you up for failure. I'm more than a conqueror in Christ Jesus. Was I victimized? Have I done? Have I dealt with some things? Have my ancestors? Have I ever dealt with racism? Yes. Don't make me a victim. I'm only a victim if I choose to be. I won't be. One thing about the victim's mentality is that it's a virus and it makes you always go under the mercy of people and you're willing to accept breadcrumbs and handouts in exchange for your trauma. Rather than getting the help, baby, I am more than a conqueror. This skin ain't holding me back. This is a blessing. I thank God for my skin. I wouldn't change the color of my skin. I thank God. And none of you, whether you're black, white, Latino, Asian, it doesn't matter. Be grateful for the skin that you're in. But don't look at it as a hindrance. Whenever you start dealing with the concept of minority, there are so many movements that make you feel like you're a victim. And that mentality sets you up for brokenness and brokenness. It sets you up for brokenness and brokenness. And also, where do I turn my black card in at? Where do I turn my black card in? Because when I say this, I may have to turn it in. You have to stop thinking that you can show racism, but you can be racist, but other races can't say what you say because of our history. Then you play the victim. Gotta break that. Come out of that mentality. If you want to be blessed, you have to agree with Jesus, agree with the word. You are more than a conqueror. You are the head and not the tail. You come above and not beneath. You come behind and no good thing. I will never come into agreement with the mentality. Okay, I got to get my black card up again. Stop thinking that just because other black people don't agree with the masses, that they're not black. That's control. Girl, what? Oh, give me your black card here. I got my own mind. And one thing I would never do is let a person take that away from me just so I can conform. Do not conform to this world. Be transformed by the renewal of your mind. Don't you let culture conform you. You know the root word of culture is cult. I don't want to talk to me. You put people on punishment when you don't get your way. Don't worry, I got one more. We're going to get out of here. And then you get mad because you look at your intentions. Everybody's a villain but you because your intentions were good. Hey, girl. So I'm going to be, I'm going to go down to California for 3 days. Do you want to come? Girl, I ain't going to be able to too. Girl, you know the way my finances are looking. I saw somebody on TikTok give that example, and the girl the girl told her, "I can't be around broke folk." It's control. It's control. And I would have told her just like that. I'd been like, you know what? I can't be around broken folk. Lose my number, child. Anybody got time for that? You put people on punishment when you don't get your way. Like I said, you can have good intentions because you had a nice little pretty fantasy going on, but you can't force people to fit into your fantasy. Last one, number 15. Number 15. You blame your issues on your zodiac sign or your trauma. You blame your issues on your zodiac sign. Your zodiac sign don't have no control over you. It's witchcraft. It has no control over you unless you give it. And I got a theory it just relates to that. The minute you start conforming to that, there are spirits you open the door up for. Certain spirits that have certain behaviors because you come into agreement with them. Yep, that's me. That's me. The devil is a lie. God gave me this thing called will. He gave me my own mind. Don't no sign control me. No sign control me. That brings you under the control of Jezebel, if you want to know the truth. When you start going under the signs, because you are letting people tell you how you are, rather than you telling them and then you start highlighting your dysfunction. You know, we had trouble forgiving. No, you don't. Rather than you just sitting back saying you have trouble forgiving, you just find them saying something about you, like, that's trouble, my struggle. They show me talking. No. You're telling those spirits that they have permission to enter you and to stay with you because now you are identifying it as your personality. You're sitting here saying that a good God who created you and called you good made you jacked up. He made me that way according to how the stars were aligning. That keeps you from taking accountability and getting deliverance. You blame your issues on your zodiac sign, your trauma, maybe your parents, your peers. You don't take accountability for Jack. It has everything to do with the fact the month that you were born and how the stars were aligned, and them stars weren't aligned in no dang on way. That was you. That's you. You're supposed to crucify that flesh of yours. And it's a process. The flesh don't go down without a fight. Trust me, I know. It don't go down without a fight. It's going to put up a fight. But your goal, your assignment, your objective is to kill it. Is to kill it. Kill that flesh of yours. You wrestle with anger, target it. Target the anger. You wrestle with unforgiveness, target it. Vindictiveness, target it. Kill it. It's crazy for you to focus and fantasize on being married and having wealth and a happy family, but you want somebody to come in and deal with all those crooked and toxic issues. Then you want to be able to say, well, you don't understand what I've been through. Because I've cornered people. And I sat up there and cornered them until they got to the place where they had nothing else to say that, well, you don't know what I've been through. Tell me. Because I've been through far more and I still went through my healing. It's a choice. It's a choice. But if you still thinking, if you still fantasizing, one sign of vindictiveness that I didn't mention, if you're still fantasizing about getting successful because you want your haters to look at you, and the people who rejected you and the people who betrayed you, they cheated on you, they left you, you want them to be able to look online and see you doing great and be like, dang, I should have stayed with her. That's vindictiveness, unforgiveness. I really don't care about who looks at me and says, oh, Tiffany doing good. No, I forgave them people. Genuinely forgave them. Meaning, when I say forgave, I'm not talking about the fake forgiveness that we do, or we just say it on camera and we just be like, and we speak tongues all over and run laps around it, and then see those people and be like, Girl, he looked like a dry alligator. No, I forget. Hey, how you doing? You look good. And any ex of mine will tell you, the ones that I have spoken with. Yeah, I spoke to an ex when my mom passed. He reached out to me. Actually, both of my exes reached out when my mom passed. They'll tell you, I ain't talked to them no crazy. I talked to them with sense. And even crack jokes. You still crazy. You want to know why? Because I can't get mad at them for me not obeying God and avoiding them through me obeying God. And the same is true for them because it's not like I was a dime in their life. It's not like I was a treasure. I can't get mad at them. No, I did what I did and I got what I wanted and then it blew up in my face. I reaped what I sown. I just didn't like the harvest. I looked at the harvest and said, what the heck is this? It's the seeds you sow. No, it ain't. Because I fantasize about apples. See, apples growing up, but these are oranges. I took my accountability. This is the end of this. This is what I'm going to say. Don't be vindictive. Obviously, that's the message. If you wrestle with that, please, 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 please ask the Lord to give you a heart of forgiveness. And not only that, understand that forgiveness is not a feeling because you're still going to feel some type of way when you feel offended with people. Sometimes you'll come around them and you have to control that feeling and you have to talk over that feeling and say, you know what, this person may be immature, this person may be broken, but I forgive them. I choose to forgive them. And then what you have to do, sometimes you got to sow a seed on top of that. Like I said, if you see them on the side of the road, pick them up, take them where they got to go. But don't allow, you heard this, the parable of the unforgiving servant. God said that if you don't forgive those who hurt you, he can't forgive you. That means you can't go to heaven. I'll mess with your theology on that. Because if you're not forgiven, you can't go to heaven. You're still under the law. You can never exalt yourself above the cross. But you don't understand what they did to me. $10 versus 1,000 or the $1,000,000 you owe that Christ paid the price for. I've been hurt. I have been rejected. I have been assaulted. I've had a lot of stuff. I forgive them all. I choose to forgive. But as a leader, I'm going to tell you, I've seen a pattern of vindictiveness in the body of Christ that has to come out. Because there are a lot of people in the body of Christ that have, or that think they're in the body, that have not yet really haven't given Jesus their heart. They've given him their confession, but it didn't come from the heart. It came from fear of going to hell. I'd rather tell you the truth and you stand before the Lord. And if he said, well, Tiffany was wrong, but at least you got in heaven, then to tell you what you want to hear. And then you stand before the Lord and he said, get away from me, for I never knew you. You're like, well, I can't. And God said, I got baptized. You went in the water, you came up a wet devil. You didn't really accept Jesus as your Lord. You still kept walking after your flesh. You kept doing what you wanted to do. You fell under the law. You wouldn't forgive. You were vindictive. You wouldn't let me hold on to what was mine, which was vengeance. You had no faith. And without faith, you can't please God. You were prideful. And you let the devil use you. Because you kept focusing on your attention. You felt like everybody that hurt you needed to be hurt. As a woman, one thing I learned when I was broken, when I was a young lady, whenever I was upset, whenever I was hurting, I wanted the people that hurt me to feel the same measure of pain that I felt. And I remember an ex told me one time, he said, Tiffany, when you get mad, you get really mad. He said, I don't understand like the level of anger. And I didn't think I was getting that angry. But when I got healed, I got delivered, I realized what was happening was I was taking out the levels of my hurt from my past on this one individual. That's why I say I take accountability. They weren't just wrong, I was wrong too. That's what people do. Believe it or not, you're taking out the entirety of your wrath on people that didn't even give you that pain. They give you, they put one pickle on your hamburger at McDonald's and you take out what your father did to you on those people. You would toss your hamburger back across the counter, growling like a mad animal. And this comes all the way from what your daddy did to you. And you don't think you need counseling and deliverance. You take the entirety. Your exes, they didn't just leave because they were bad and they just cheating on you. They left because the other woman was a way of escape for them. It's not the way of escape that God gave them, but they left because of your rage, your anger, your bitterness, your vindictiveness. Don't nobody want to be with no vindictive person. I'm finna close. I promise you. Give me a moment. Give me about 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. Okay. Nobody wants to be in a relationship with a vindictive person. It's hard to be in a house with a person who doesn't understand that you're human and you're not going to be perfect. And that doesn't mean that you go out and do things that are vindictive or hurtful, but it means that maybe you may be walking with a cup of hot coffee and you drop it, and somebody blows up because you did that, and they change the atmosphere. I'm an atmosphere person. They change the atmosphere in your home by not speaking to you because they're angry with you. That's control. And over the course of time, people will excuse themselves from that environment. And they're not going to want to keep living there because nobody wants to live in that space. Nobody wants to walk on eggshells. Nobody wants to be controlled by another human being. We all want freedom and safety. We want the freedom. I was thinking about my mom. I think it was yesterday. And I thought about how much I miss her. And I was thinking about how with my mom, I was free. I was free because that's my mom. And that's the freedom you have with your parents. A lot of times, especially with your mothers, I was free to be Tiffany, free. I could be the jokester. I could be broken. I could be all of those things with my mom. And no matter what I was, I knew that she loved me. No matter how much problems we had in the past, me and my mom had a great relationship by the time she passed. But I could be all of those things with my mom. My mom has seen me in every state. Every person is looking for a relationship like that, believe it or not. Everybody's looking for the opportunity that when you see their wounds, when you see their insecurities, when you see their brokenness, you're still there. You don't put them on blast. You cover them. You pray for them. You love them. People are looking for what we refer to as agape, or what is referred to as agape, unconditional love, which is called God's kind of love. But you keep trying to give them eros. Don't nobody want to be in a relationship with you, and all you have is eros, which is romantic love. That's it. That means that if all you got is romantic love, which is conditional, agape is the only unconditional love. What happens when the person is not doing what you want? You got conditions on a relationship that makes the person not feel safe, which is why they deal with insecurity as it relates to you. Everybody wants to have the ability to be in a home where they're safe, to have the safety that they had in most cases with their parents, especially with their mom. The safety that they have to sit there and be flawed and you not make them feel like crap for being flawed. Can I tell you a secret? Your leaders want that too. Everybody wants the ability to be flawed. And it's not to say the permission, it's not to say that they got to deal with your dysfunction. It is to say that you love them beyond those flaws. Everybody wants it. They want the security of knowing if I come home and kick my shoes off in the middle of the floor and it's a habit, for example, but you happen to be a clean freak, you're not going to turn around and turn that into World War III. You come home and say, hey, babe, shoes? I'm going to get them. No. Okay, no. I'll tell you what. Let's sit down and we got to talk about this. I understand it's not a habit of yours, so I'm not going to beat you up because it takes 17 to 21 days to make a habit. So I need you to do this for 17 to 21 days until it becomes a habit. Come up with solutions. Everybody's problem focused. When you found a solutionist, you found yourself a real friend. You found I love solutionists. I do not want to be around anybody who they come and they focus on every problem. Tiffany, you put your lashes too close to your eyes. I've seen videos, I've done it, right? But you put your lashes too close to your eyes, you look cockeyed. Okay, that's fine. Why are you trying to make me feel bad? Give me a solution. Send me a video of how to apply black lashes. And I ain't giving people permission to send me no crazy videos now. But I'm saying, you go, and I said this, I said this to my mentees, they'll tell you, you go into a church, you see where there's something that's not there. They don't have a strong this or they don't have a strong that. Maybe you're called to bring the solution. Don't come and leave and then start black talking about, oh y'all, when my auntie kicked the bucket when she fell off her motorcycle, like we told her she was 88 years old, she was too hot, good, she was too old to be on a motorcycle, but she got on a motorcycle anyhow. She tried to drive down the highway. She knew she couldn't see, and she was driving down the highway, and yeah, anyhow, grandma, auntie now she's got on wings, and the church didn't reach out to me after she passed. They didn't. Nobody reached out. There was only one person that reached out to me, and that was Lil Dare, the Lil Dare with the cock eyes, the one that was off. He was like, sorry. That's the only person that nobody reached out to me. Okay, I get it, but maybe you are supposed to bring the solution. If I can get that in people's head, we won't have an offended generation. Maybe you're supposed to bring the solution. Maybe you're supposed to come in and say, okay, that hurt. Okay, so let me tell you, when I was going through some pain here, there was nobody reached out to me. Nobody really counseled me. And I think we should. And so here is a traffic keeper, solutionist. Don't just tell people the problem. I'm telling you how to be married. I'm telling you how to be a blessing. I'm playing out. Thank you. God bless you. Don't complain. Come with a solution. Leaders love solutionists. Leaders love solutionists. I gave you a master class. You don't even know it. Leaders love solutionists. You come, you create a traffic keeper of solutions, and not just all the problems and then here goes some solutions. Now you go do the research. No. So we need out there in that area there is really hot. So I bought this, and it's a little unit. It's 300, but don't tell them the price. I got it, and I don't. It's not gonna do much, but I think it should help. Oh, leaders love that. And so every problem you come up with, have a solutionist. Have a solution, have it planned out, and then execute it. Because they already got a trapper keeper full of stuff. Don't try to add that on top of it. I just gave you a master class. Come with solutions, not problems. I feel like the people in here are not that loving. Maybe you're called to be the loving person up in there. You're called to be a light. You ever thought about that? Solutionists are the ones that God trusts. Solutionists are the ones that God gives grace to. Well, he gives grace to us all, but God gives favor to. Solutionists are the ones that tap into wealth. Solutionists are the ones that God gives inventive ideas to. Because when you knock, he will answer. When you're sitting there and if you're sitting there thinking, man, the chairs, it just feels like we're too tight up in here. Rather than doing that, you say, you know what? I think we need wider chairs. So let me find some. Let me come up in here. Let me measure the seats. Let me find some. Let me calculate. Let me ask, hey, how many seats we have in here? 350. Okay. Let me find them. Let me come up with a price. Let me figure it out. Okay, 350, and they won't. Okay. And I found a wholesale website. And this ain't something I did. I'm just giving an example. Wholesale website said $24.99 if you get 350. Sheesh. $8,746.50. Okay. We're not gonna put that burden on the pastor because they have enough burdens. How can we get 8,000? If I could give get 80 people to give $100, I'm showing you how to be. This is how you come out of vindictiveness. If I can give 80 people, and then I'll just give a little bit more because 80 people giving 100, that's going to give us 8,000, and I can give the 750. But if I can get 80 people, that 350 people up in here. So let me figure out, can we run something? Can we do something? Or can I sell something? It doesn't even have to be church run. I can make a commitment to God that, hey, you give me the funds. So maybe I can offer something and I can run it by my leader. I can run it by my leader and I can share. Okay, this is my goal. I did the numbers. So here go the website that I was looking at right here. And according to the website, I can get 350 for $24.99 each. And so what I was thinking that what we can do, and it would give us wider chairs. Now it would take up a little bit more space, but I was figuring, we don't necessarily need all those aisles like that, but we won't be so arm to arm and they look comfortable or what have you. So this is what I was thinking. Since there's 350 people up in here, we can try to get, let's say, 100 people to give $80 or get 80 people to give $100. Yeah. And so, I'll cover the rest. And so what I was thinking is that we can have a bake sale. And I'm thinking with the bake sale, because I got a sister that bakes. I'll buy the baking goods. So with the bake sale, I'm estimating we should be able to bring in this much money. You see that? Then I can offer this. And okay, what let's find, like, let's bring these people together. Let's get the creatives in the church, because that's what the creatives are there for. I don't know if y'all realize that. Let's get them together and let's see. And they're creative. Don't go up in there talking about your price. You're trying to help the church. If I'm gonna do graphic, no, don't do this. Your church, you're supposed to sell. People don't want to hear that. Now somebody else's church is the whole thing. Let me come up with a solution. So this is what I'm thinking. This is what I came up with. If we did this, and then here's this, catch this. If the pastor says, no, I like the chairs that we have now, let it go and don't get offended. Because don't assume that they're going to take your idea. But at least be a solutionist. Over the course of time, you'll be able to practice. If you keep practicing doing that, you'll become a solutionist. You'll become one heck of a wife or husband. You won't be argumentative when you're married. You won't be vindictive, because you will learn that the problems you have with your spouse, there's a solution for that. And rather than going to a person and causing them to put their guard up because you're coming to us and can we talk? Instead, you're able to sit back and say, okay, he's got this vindictive mother. She always comes to our house and she's trying to take over. I've talked to him about it, but let me put together a solution. So, babe, this is what I put together. We're going to have to stand together with her, okay? We got to stand together, not against her, but we got to stand together to let her know that this isn't okay. She can't move our furniture around when she comes to our house. So what we're going to have to do is start talking to her. And, we got to do it. You put together a solution. That's how you build the trust of people. You get that trust when they see that you're trying to help them or not control them. Solution. When you come with the solution, you become a blessing. Everywhere you go, you become a blessing. Everywhere you go, that's how you get blessed. God only blesses those who purpose in their hearts to be a blessing. Those who are not moved by their emotions. Those who are not quitters. Those who are not people that walk around easily offended, holding a chip on their shoulder. Is those who stand still and say, God, use me in any way you see fit. Forget my feelings. Your name be glorified. Teach me to be a blessing. Because if you're going to go out there and feed the homeless, you can't get mad that one of them cuss you out. Thank it. Okay, you're looking at a demonized, broken person at the end of the day. What you going to do? Drop the soup spoon and walk out? I can't deal with this. He's just going to have to be hungry. No. It is the love of God that sets people free. Come up with a solution. That's your goal. That's your assignment. Learn to be a solutionist, not somebody who highlights a problem. People like that are problematic. I tell you that. People who come in and they're always highlighting problems, they are a problem because they have not yet come to understand their purpose. They're too busy focusing on everything that's wrong with everybody else rather than sitting back saying, okay, we need solutions up in here. What is the solution for this? And again, I have to make sure I emphasize this. Just because you come up with a solution doesn't mean they're going to accept it. Don't take it as you being rejected. Just take it as practice. Well, that one was shot down, but it's okay. There's another issue. I wanted to address that. So let me come up with a solution for this. Over the course of time, you become a master at that, and it changes your perspective. It changes your perspective of things. So whereas everybody else see problems, you see an opportunity. That's how millionaires are made. Then I'm gonna go. Millionaires are made because everybody else is consumer minded. They come in and they see problems. Millionaires actually see opportunities. They see solutions. These seats up in here are too tight. A millionaire will sit up in it. A millionaire will come and sit in that church and keep coming back and keep coming back and keep coming back and will sit there and be like, what's a good solution? And come up with an invention. Millionaires run toward problems. Broke folks run away from them. They complain about them. I'm hungry. A millionaire says, what you want to eat? I'll create something. I'll create a business around your hunger. My hair, I always like to, I don't even know why. The edges won't seem to stay laid down. Millionaires say, I'll create an edge cream. How do you think things are being created? It's from people sitting there looking at problems and thinking. And you know what? When you're like that, you're not going to always come up with a solution, but you're practicing, you're exercising your mind. What's the solution today? I'll tell you an example. I oftentimes think, what's the solution that will be feasible to stop so many car accidents? I've been thinking about that for years. I've been thinking about that for years. Years. Watch, one day I'm going to come up with something. God willing. Because what I'm doing is I'm knocking on that door. There has not been an answer yet, but I ain't going to stop knocking. Keep knocking. Until you come up with it, until the solution comes and says, what? I ain't even mad at your what. I need you. We need more solutionists. We need less consumers. Consumers are the ones that if we end up in a recession, will be eating each other and crying. Solutionists will be off somewhere on a hill with security, ready to. And once you got to learn to become a solutionist. Vindictive people are not solutionists. They're victims who've mastered being victims. People who sabotage everything that comes into their life simply because of the hurt of their past. All right? We're going to do better. Master being a solutionist, okay? Don't ever walk around this earth carrying a grudge and thinking people owe you something. Somebody got a problem? Oh, girl, I can't stand her. She this and she that. It's okay. One of these days, you may have the opportunity to demonstrate. This is how you come out of that attitude, sis. That mentality, solutionist. You identify how to help the person, not how to hurt them. Hope you guys were blessed by this. I'm about to get over here. I wasn't planning to be on here 3 hours, but we look like we're gonna hit 3 hours on the dot. But I bless God for you. Hopefully, you guys will this edified you. It helped to change your mind. And if you have identified that you are somebody who is vindictive, I recommend praying yourself. You can't pray yourself out of it, but pray about it. Study yourself. Study, show yourself approved, and then listen. Reach out to Apostle Aubrey Hopkins to set up a therapy and deliverance session, or Pastor Shanithia Kendricks to start getting regular. Now, therapy don't work on one occasion. You need regular rounds of it, okay? you gotta come out of that, guys. You gotta come out of that. If you want to be blessed in this thing called life, you can't be average. You can't fit into the crowd, and you can't keep doing the same old toxic stuff expecting a blessing to come out of it. It doesn't work that way. Anyhow, I love you guys. I hope that you were blessed, and I will talk to you soon. Again, if you want to sow a seed, you are more than welcome to do so. Join Esther Prep University. You can do monthly membership now. We would love to have you. All right, talk to you soon.